Accompanied by the cold wind and snowflakes, the new spring festival was just around the corner. The period before the festival was also Juinheng's busiest time. A month ago, Juinheng's Human Resources Department had received an incredibly arduous task. Knock, knock. A knock sounded on the office door. The man inside looked up abruptly, frowning slightly as he pushed up his glasses. He looked to be in his 50s, dressed in a neat shirt. He was the manager of the Human Resources Department, surnamed Zhang. Because he was kind and affable, he got along well with his colleagues outside of work hours, so no one called him Manager Zhang. Instead, they affectionately called him Lao Zhang. He didn't care much for titles himself. As long as his subordinates respected him, the form of address was trivial. Come in, Lao Zhang responded to the knock. The office door opened to reveal Tang Ji standing in the doorway. Upon seeing Tang Ji, Lao Zhang stood up and walked out from behind his desk. Secretary Tang, it's you? Yes, Lao Zhang. I'm here about the annual party, Tang Ji said as she walked in and sat down on the sofa, holding a large pile of documents. Seeing the documents made Lao Zhang's head buzz. Wasn't his workload heavy enough already? Now there's all this? Io, why is this year's annual party so difficult? The employees in our department have been especially busy lately. They've been working overtime for days. Lao Zhang felt completely overwhelmed. In previous years, preparing for the annual party had been exceptionally simple and relaxed. Why was it so complicated this year? There's no helping it. After all, this year's party is probably the largest in history. We have to co-host it with Tianheng from Huzhou. The pressure is bound to be immense. Sigh. Lao Zhang sighed. This was the first time he had heard of two companies co-hosting an annual party. He had heard rumors that their chairman and Tianheng's chairman were a married couple, but was it really necessary to hold it together this year? The scale was so large, there were far too many things to consider. Vice President Zhou has also been exhausted over this for days. Don't worry, the logistics and planning departments will be asked to get involved later. Tianheng will also send people over for meetings. You all just need to coordinate properly. There's no way we'd let the Human Resources Department handle this alone. That's good. Otherwise, we really wouldn't be able to manage. With only a month, it's really difficult. Lao Zhang breathed a sigh of relief. Hearing that so many people would be responsible for this matter put his mind at ease. Otherwise, their department would work themselves to death and still not finish. Tang Ji placed her hand on the files and said, "These are some of the requirements from Vice President Zhou." "Oh, right. The parts marked confidential must not be leaked." "Understood." Tang Ji stared at Lao Zhang, looking exceptionally serious. Lao Zhang was taken aback for a moment, then nodded and said, "Yes, understood." The Vice President Zhou that Tang Ji mentioned was Zhou Hong. He was no longer the president's assistant, but held the title of vice president, and Tang Ji was his secretary. Since Zhou Hong took office, the biggest task he was responsible for was this annual party. It was the largest in scale, incredibly lively, and at the same time, the prizes were extremely generous. The lottery prizes included luxury cars, paid vacations, and cash. The lowest tier prize was a mobile phone. Most people were looking forward to the annual party. They could join in the fun, watch the leaders dance and perform, and try their luck in the lottery. Especially since this year's party was on such a grand scale. Co-hosted with Tianheng from Huzhou, they were extremely curious about what new excitement there would be and what kind of sparks would fly. I'll leave this with you then. There's a meeting at 2 in the afternoon. I'll head back first. After relaying the information, Tang Ji got up and left. Lao Zhang looked at the files on the table, shrugged helplessly, then picked them up and returned to his desk. After Tang Ji returned to her office, she felt her workload wasn't so heavy anymore. Since this annual party task had emerged, she seemed to have a lot more free time. She made a cup of coffee, then walked out of her office and went to Zhou Heng's office. She knocked gently, and, after getting permission, she went in. Zhou Heng was sitting at his desk, staring at the computer in front of him with a tight frown. He looked very busy. Tang Ji walked over, placed the coffee on his desk, then went to the sofa, sat down, crossed her legs, and chuckled lightly. My, how the tables have turned. It's your turn to be swamped with work." Tang Ji made a small joke. Previously, when she had been handling Zhou Heng's work, she had been almost overwhelmed. But now that Zhou Heng had succeeded as vice president, he was much busier than her. Although she still had work, with her speed, she didn't need to rush at all. "Do you need my help? Give some of the work to me." Zhou Heng looked up at Tang Ji, then shook his head and said, "No need. I have to complete this work myself." Let me think." Zhou Heng looked like he was thinking seriously. Then, he looked at Tang Ji and asked, "Hasn't it been a while since you've gone to see how things are at Tianheng?" Tang Ji was stunned. After thinking about it, She realized it had indeed been a long time since she had been to Tianheng. It had been several months since she had seen Yin Mingran and the others. After all, she had been busy at the company, which was why Zhou Heng had time to visit Tianheng frequently. Now, that Zhou Heng was the one busy at the company, did that mean she had time to visit Tianheng? Yeah, it really's been a while. I haven't seen Ran and the others in so long. I really miss Little Nin. He should be 3 or 4 months old now, right? Can he talk yet? Can he call me auntie? Tang Ji looked at Zhou Heng with anticipation, asking excitedly. How could he? The other day, he just managed a BA sound, and that made me ecstatic. It's a good time for you to go see them. The baby is so interesting now. A lot of people at the company want to see him every day. He's become the company mascot. Tang Ji burst out laughing. Huh, and I must go see him, so I can leave after work? Go straight to Tianheng? Aren't you going? I won't go today. You can tell Ran about the situation. You don't have to wait until after work. Just go in a little while. You'll have more time to play. When it was time to get off work, Tang Ji left the company and went to the parking lot, preparing to drive to Huzhou. Before she left, she had to go shopping first. After all, it had been a long time, and since she was making a rare visit, she couldn't possibly go empty-handed. So Tang Ji first went to a department store and bought a pile of things, mostly for the baby, like maternal and infant supplies. In the past, she never knew what to buy as a gift. Now, with the baby, it was much easier. She just had to buy things related to the baby, milk powder, diapers, toys. There were so many things she could buy. And for things like diapers, it didn't matter if she bought a lot. They would definitely run out anyway. After buying the items, Tang Ji stuffed them into the trunk and set off for Huzhou. Tang Ji's driving speed was a little bit faster than Zhou Heng's. After all, she had been driving for many years. For a journey that should have taken over an hour, Tang Ji took exactly 1 hour to reach her destination. Tang Ji got out of the car and looked at Tianheng before her, sighing, in the future, under Yimingran's management, what will Tianheng become? Leadership is very important. Tang Ji knew that once Yimingran took the top position, Tianheng would definitely change and become different. As for whether it would be for the better or worse, she didn't know. Tang Ji only believed that Yimingran would make Tianheng better. Tang Ji gathered all the things she had bought and walked inside. The receptionist was a sharp person. She could remember any VIP who had visited even once. Even though Tang Ji hadn't been here in a long time, she recognized her at a glance. Without needing an announcement, she let Tang Ji wait for the elevator to go upstairs. A moment later, the elevator doors opened, and Tang Ji walked in, holding all her things. Ding! Just as the elevator doors were about to close, Tang Ji suddenly heard a voice from outside. Hey, wait. I need to go up too. Tang Ji didn't know who the voice belonged to, but she subconsciously pressed the open door button and the elevator doors opened. A woman ran in, looking hurried. What surprised Tang Ji was that she was also carrying quite a few things. And upon closer inspection, they seemed to be maternal and infant supplies as well. After Dong Xingya entered the elevator, she got a clear look at Tang Ji. She looked her up and down, confirmed she didn't recognize her, and then noticed the things Tang Ji was holding. To come here, carrying so many maternal and infant supplies, there could hardly be a second possibility, right? It had to be an acquaintance of Yimingran's. Here to see the baby? Tang Ji spoke first. After all, if the other person was really here to see the baby, they would get to know each other sooner or later. It was better to get acquainted here first. Yes, and you are? I'm the baby's aunt. I'm Zhou Heng's sister. Hello, my name is Tang Ji. Tang Ji nodded, smiled faintly, and introduced herself. Hearing Tang Ji's identity, Dong Xingya also smiled lightly and nodded in response. Hello, my name is Dong Xingya. I'm the baby's godmother. Tang Ji was suddenly stunned, looking blank, as if she had frozen on the spot. Although she was only the baby's aunt, she was one of Yimingran's best friends, right? And one of Zhou Heng's best friends, right? How would she not know that the baby had a godmother? Oh, I see. What a coincidence to run into you here. Although Tang Ji was surprised, she didn't say much. After all, this was Zhou Heng and Yimingran's business, and it wasn't her place to say anything or interfere. Yes, indeed. You look familiar, like I've seen you somewhere before. Dong Xingya looked at Tang Ji, feeling like she had seen that face before, but she couldn't recall where. Really? Perhaps you saw me with Zhou Heng? I'm his secretary, after all. Oh, secretary? Oh, I remember now. I was wondering why you looked so familiar. Dong Xingya recalled that when she was investigating Zhou Heng before, she had indeed seen a photo of his secretary. At the time, she had muttered to herself, wondering why a guy as dedicated and loyal to his wife as Zhou Heng would hire such a beautiful secretary. Could something be going on? It turned out she was his sister. That seemed much more reasonable. The two rode the elevator together to Mungran's office upstairs. After knocking on the door, they went in. The two people inside the office looked up at the same time and saw Dong Qingya and Tang Ji walk in. They were a bit shocked. They were used to Dong Qingya coming, but Tang Ji hadn't been here in a long time. And why had the two of them come together? You two. Mungran pointed at them, a look of confusion on her face. Tang Ji said with a smile, we just met in the elevator and came up together. What's up? Did you miss me? It's been so long since I've come to see you all. Of course we missed you. I was just telling Ling Xue that we should find some time to go to Dongzhou to see you. Mungran smiled, stood up, and walked over to Tang Ji. Ling Xue also followed. The three of them were overjoyed to see each other, their faces filled with delight. Dong Qingya, however, went straight for the baby and started playing with him. Why didn't Zhou Heng come with you? Ling Xue saw that Tang Ji had come alone and was a bit puzzled, wondering if Tang Ji and Zhou Heng could never appear on screen at the same time. If one came, the other couldn't? President Zhou is busy, so he sent me to see you all. It's okay. I'll take over his work tomorrow. Then he'll have time to come. He must have been working very hard these past few days. Mungran could clearly feel that Zhou Heng had been contacting her less recently. Zhou Heng had also said that he was indeed busy and things might only get better after a while. However, she didn't feel disappointed because of it. As his wife, she certainly understood her husband. When he was busy with work, she couldn't add more pressure on him. Yes, indeed, he's very tired. I offered to help him with some of his work, but he refused, saying he had to complete it himself. Tang Ji shrugged, looking a bit helpless. Just then, when she looked ahead at Dong Qingya holding the baby and cooing at him, she couldn't help but ask with some confusion, I wanted to ask something just now. Who exactly is that person? Mungran gave an awkward smile and said, this. At the end of the day, this person is a young lady from a wealthy family. As for why she's like this, I'm not too sure either. Sigh, I'm exhausted. Under the night sky, a half-moon hung askew, and stars twinkled. A man walked listlessly down a quiet path, looking drained and utterly weary. This man was Liao Haomiao. He was far from both Dongzhou and Huzhou, and far from home. The last time he had seen his best friend, Zhou Heng, was 3 or 4 months ago, right after his child was born. It was because he truly had no time. He had graduated and found his first post-graduation job as an intern at a publicly listed company. He hadn't even become a full-time employee yet. Every day was exhausting. He had to do a lot of work, manage office relationships, be on good terms with everyone, and face them with a smile no matter his mood. There was endless overtime and time after work that he couldn't control because of social obligations he particularly hated. Today a colleague's birthday dinner, tomorrow another colleague's invitation for drinks. It was bad not to go. It would create distance, which would make things difficult in the office. Before becoming a full-time employee, his salary was pitifully low, less than what he would earn working in a restaurant. The only upsides were the decent benefits, room for advancement, and social insurance and housing funds. He could only endure it slowly. But earning so little in the beginning was really tough. He had to ask his family for a significant amount of money every month. Otherwise, he couldn't survive. After all, he wasn't alone. He had a girlfriend he lived with. The two of them, their food and clothing, daily expenses, rent and utilities, groceries. Even if his current salary were doubled, it would be completely insufficient. This is so frustrating. What's the use of being first in my class? I should have gone to grad school or taken a civil service exam or something. Liao Haomiao unzipped his down jacket, letting his anger-heated body cool down. He was a good student in school, but he didn't continue down that academic path because he fell in love, indulging in the tenderness and enjoying the feeling that love brought. At the time, he didn't want to study anymore. He wanted to graduate quickly, find a job, and move on to the stage of living together with his girlfriend. His thoughts at the time were wonderful. Living together would be incredibly happy. They didn't plan on having children, so the two of them would surely have it easy. They could wake up and see each other, then brush their teeth together, eat breakfast together, and go to work together. After work, whoever finished first would wait for the other, and then they could go to the mall, buy groceries, and get things they needed. After getting home, they would cook together, eat together, and then go for a walk. They could play badminton together, then buy some of their favorite fruits and snacks, and go home together, curl up on the sofa, watch a movie, and then sleep together. This was the life he had imagined, full of hope and laughter. But now, it seemed the gap between his imagination and reality was a bit too wide. Did I choose the wrong path? Liao Haomiao looked up at the stars in the sky and mumbled. Then he suddenly thought of someone, lowered his head, and continued to murmur, I wonder how Zhou Hong and the others are doing. I remember he works at Junhong. It's been a long time since we've been in touch. They have a child to raise. They must be even more tired than me. Without realizing it, Liao Haomiao arrived back at his home. He looked up at the apartment building, his heart heavy. Rent is due again in 3 months. I'll have to ask my family for money again. Liao Haomiao took the elevator upstairs and arrived at his front door. Just as he was about to use his key to open it, he heard laughter coming from inside. Ha ha ha! Liao Haomiao recognized the voice as his girlfriend Zhu Tao's. He guessed she was probably watching her variety shows again, with the TV volume turned up high. He opened the door and walked in. In the living room, Zhu Tao was sitting on a cushion on the floor below the sofa. The coffee table in front of her was covered with snacks, bubble tea, and other things. A variety show was playing on the TV. The sofa was piled high with their clothes, a total mess. He glanced towards the kitchen. In the sink were the unwashed dishes from breakfast. On the counter were bottles and jars placed haphazardly, still with water stains and soy sauce marks. The kitchen trash can was full, about to overflow, and there were takeout containers inside. The dining table was exactly as he had left it that morning. Hearing the sound, Zhu Tao looked towards the door and saw Liao Haomiao standing there. She waved happily. You're back, baby. Yeah. Liao Haomiao nodded in response, then muttered in a very low voice as he took off his shoes, I wish I really were a baby. After saying that, Zhu Tao turned her attention back to the TV and said, What are we eating tonight? I'm hungry. I'm a little tired. Let's order takeout. Zhu Tao stared blankly as Liao Haomiao walked into the room, dragging his tired body step by step towards the bedroom without saying another word. Bang! Then the bedroom door closed. Zhu Tao's body trembled slightly. She blinked, a look of bewilderment on her face. She pursed her lips, then turned off the TV, stood up, and walked toward the bedroom. She gently pushed the bedroom door open and saw that the room was pitch black. Liao Haomiao, having taken off his coat, was lying face down on the bed, motionless. Baby, Zhu Tao called out softly, but received no response. Liao Haomiao remained lying on the bed, his eyes tightly shut. Besides the rise and fall of his back and his even breathing, which proved he was still alive, there was no other sign of vitality. Zhu Tao started to worry. A concerned look appeared in her eyes. She slowly walked in, not daring to turn on the light. Using the little bit of light from the living room, she came to the bedside. Then, she bent down, placed her hands on Liao Haomiao's shoulders, and began to gently massage them. You've worked so hard. Was today very tiring? Liao Haomiao felt the pressure from Zhu Tao's hands, slowly opened his eyes, and asked softly, Didn't you have an interview today? How did it go? Zhu Tao lowered her head, a look of disappointment in her eyes, and replied, I didn't pass. They said I lacked relevant work experience and had poor communication skills. Liao Haomiao exhaled heavily through his nose, then closed his eyes again and said helplessly, And then, you bought a bunch of snacks, went home, and watched TV all day, is that right? Well, Zhu Tao was at a loss for words, not knowing how to answer. She had indeed gone for an interview that morning, and after failing, she was in a bad mood, so she bought a lot of snacks to cheer herself up. When she got home, thinking she had nothing else to do that day, she started playing on her phone and watching TV. I have another interview tomorrow. Don't worry, baby, Zhu Tao said in a small voice, but her tone was already tinged with a lack of confidence. She knew this behavior of hers would surely create an imbalance in the heart of Liao Haomiao, who had worked hard all day. He was out there working so hard to support the family, while she had spent the day at home watching TV. He would definitely be upset to come home and see her like this. But what could she do? Finding a job was really too difficult. This was her third failed interview. So many recent college graduates were competing with her, and she had no advantage. There were plenty of people willing to accept jobs with extremely low salaries. So you go out first. I need a rest for a bit. Then call me if you need anything. You must be hungry. I'll go order takeout. What do you want to eat? Whatever. Okay. Zhu Tao walked out of the bedroom and gently closed the door. In the dark bedroom, Liao Haomiao opened his eyes again, took out his phone from his pocket, held it up, and turned it on. The screen's light illuminated his bloodshot eyes. He frowned, lowered the brightness, and then opened someone's social media feed. Liao Haomiao looked at Zhou Heng's feed, which was full of pictures of their child and photos with Mingran. They looked so happy. In the photos, they were always smiling. He didn't know how Zhou Heng and Mingran had managed to get through it. Living together was completely different from just dating. Where did the feeling of being in love go? That feeling where everything about the other person seemed perfect, where their every frown and smile seemed to glow. Back then, they couldn't see each other often, so every meeting was cherished. Parting was incredibly hard, and the thought even arose that it wouldn't matter if they gave up everything, as long as they could be by the other side. Maintaining the relationship through their phones, every message carried longing, fantasizing about how wonderful it would be to live together in the future. When I make big money in the future, you won't have to work. I'll support you. He had said things like that, promises made in the heat of new love. Where had that feeling gone? That mindset? Those thoughts? Why was there such a huge gap between the ideal and reality? Sigh. Liao Haomiao had lost count of how many times he had sighed. He turned off his phone, then with all his strength, got up from the bed and walked out of the bedroom. At that moment, Zhu Tao was in the living room ordering takeout. Hearing the bedroom door open, she immediately looked up and saw Liao Haomiao. Hey, baby, are you rested? How about we have that really delicious rice bowl again today? Or do you want noodles? Do you want to take a look and see what you want to eat? Zhu Tao quickly stood up from the sofa, ran over with a smile, wanting to show Liao Haomiao her phone. But Liao Haomiao turned around, grabbed his coat from the rack, put it on, and then went to the door, saying softly, I'm not hungry right now. You go ahead and order your food. I'm going out for a bit. I'll be back later. Wait, where are you going at this hour? The weather forecast says it's going to snow soon. Where are you going? Zhu Tao stood there, gave a bitter smile, her hands hanging down, looking a little worried. Liao Haomiao looked up at her, which gave Zhu Tao a huge fright. Because Liao Haomiao's expression was terrible, his eyes were empty, as if they had lost all their light. It's too hot in here. I'm going out to get some air. After saying that, Liao Haomiao pushed the door open and walked out. Zhu Tao stood there, watching the heavily closed door. Her head felt a little numb, her heart beat faster and faster, and her body began to tremble slightly. Liao Haomiao walked out of his home and went outside. Just as he stepped out, snowflakes began to drift down from the sky. He walked a few steps, then took something out of his pocket. It was a pack of cigarettes. He had only started smoking a short while ago. Zhu Tao didn't know about this, and he didn't want her to know. At work now, he would occasionally have one to relieve his stress. The smell would be gone by the time he got home, so Zhu Tao had never found out. Click, he lit a cigarette, put it in his mouth, took a drag, and slowly exhaled. He remembered when he first started smoking, he would choke. Now he was quite skilled. As he took a drag, he felt much better. Suddenly, he thought of something and couldn't help but laugh. He remembered when he first met Zhou Heng, when he was trying to set him up with Yin Mingran. He had even bought him a pack of cigarettes. At the time, Zhou Heng said he didn't smoke, and he himself said he didn't smoke either, so they threw the pack away. Later, when they ate together, they also said that it seemed no one in their circle of friends smoked, and they promised not to touch them in the future. It seemed he had broken the promise. He couldn't resist, and had started smoking. It made sense. They didn't have these kinds of troubles. Why would they touch this stuff? Only someone like him would probably touch it. Liao Haomiao sat on the steps downstairs, smoked a cigarette, stared straight ahead, dazed, letting the snowflakes fall on his head and clothes, forming a small patch of snow. He remained indifferent. After a while, Liao Haomiao stood up, brushed the snow off his head and clothes, and muttered, I should go see Zhou Heng and the others when I have time. I wonder if he has time to have a drink with me. He had been outside for over half an hour and was now ready to go home because his hands and feet were starting to get stiff and his face was flushed red. Liao Haomiao stood at the door of his home. The thought of entering and seeing the disastrous state of the house gave him a headache. Should he clean up tonight? Or maybe just forget it? He was too tired. He'd deal with it tomorrow. Liao Haomiao opened the door and walked in. But as soon as he entered, he was startled and froze on the spot, even wondering if he had walked into the wrong place. The living room before him was very tidy. The coffee table was clear of all the clutter, the clothes were neatly folded on the sofa, and the kitchen was all cleaned up. However, he heard faint crying coming from the bedroom. Liao Haomiao was somewhat surprised by the scene before him. In a short time he was out, Zhu Tao had cleaned the entire house so thoroughly. But that crying sound, was that Zhu Tao? Was she crying? Liao Haomiao took off his shoes and coat as he walked in, then hurried to the bedroom door. Standing there, he could clearly hear Zhu Tao's sobs. It sounded like she was crying under the covers. But why? Why would she be crying? Was it because he had been too cold when he got home? It was true that he was very tired today and in a bad mood, so his attitude towards her had been a bit flat, but he hadn't argued with her, nor had he said anything excessive. Liao Haomiao reached out and gently pushed open the bedroom door. He saw Zhu Tao huddled under the covers, crying softly. The scene reminded him of many years ago, when Zhu Tao's mother had asked him to go to her house. It was a dark bedroom just like this, and Zhu Tao was crying. Ahem. Baby, what's wrong with you? Liao Haomiao stood there awkwardly, coughed, and asked in a small voice. Hearing his voice, Zhu Tao suddenly stopped crying. She lifted the covers, glanced at Liao Haomiao with tear-streaked cheeks and a surprised look, then immediately pulled the covers back over herself and said from underneath, "What did you get back?" She hadn't heard Liao Haomiao come in and didn't know when he had arrived or appeared beside her. "I just got home. What's wrong? Why are you crying? Did someone upset you? Was it me?" Liao Haomiao crouched down by the bed, placed his hand on the covers, and patted them gently, asking softly. Liao Haomiao patted a couple of times, but there was still no response. Zhu Tao didn't answer. Liao Haomiao grew more concerned and continued, "I'm sorry today. I was a bit cold. It was my fault. I shouldn't have brought my work mood back home." As Liao Haomiao finished speaking, Zhu Tao trembled slightly under the covers. Then, she suddenly threw the covers off and lunged at him, hugging him tightly. Her arms wrapped around his neck, and she buried her head in his shoulder. With a trembling, crying voice, she whispered in his ear, "Can you not leave me? Don't break up with me. Please, I'll find a job. I'll do the housework. Just don't leave me." This sobbing plea entered Liao Haomiao's ears, and his heart instantly ached. Zhu Tao's words made him feel extremely pained. He understood now. It was because of his attitude when he got home. He had been so cold, gone straight to the bedroom to lie down, ignored her, and his words had carried a hint of blame. He had also left the house for no apparent reason. Zhu Tao must have thought that he was fed up, that he had had enough of living with her, that he resented her for not finding a job and being idle at home, and that he was going to break up with her. That's why she had acted that way. Liao Haomiao took a deep breath, wrapped his arms around Zhu Tao, and whispered in her ear, "I never thought about leaving you. Don't overthink it. It was my fault today. I was in a bad mood and didn't treat you well, which must be why you thought that." MMPH. Just as Liao Haomiao finished speaking, Zhu Tao suddenly reached out a hand and pinched his mouth shut. Then, with pouting lips and teary eyes, she looked at him and stammered, "You were smoking? Your mouth. It's all smoky." Zhu Tao sobbed as she spoke to Liao Haomiao, her eyes holding a hint of complaint. She hadn't expected that when Liao Haomiao went out just now, it was to smoke. However, this also made Zhu Tao realize that Liao Haomiao's stress must be really immense. Otherwise, he wouldn't have just started smoking without any warning. Liao Haomiao looked embarrassed. He knew he would be found out sooner or later. How could he keep his smoking a secret forever? He would definitely be discovered. But he was still worried that Zhu Tao would blame him, that she would hate the smell of smoke and object to his smoking. I was smoking. I really felt a bit stressed, and smoking helps me release that pressure. So, Liao Haomiao didn't know how to explain. So he simply shut his mouth and said no more. Forget it. To his surprise, in the next second, Zhu Tao rested her head on his chest, pressing close to him, still sniffling and sobbing. "As long as you don't leave me, it's fine. You can do whatever you want. I'll definitely change too. I'll work hard. I won't be like this anymore. Just don't leave me." Zhu Tao's voice was very small, pleading, and her arms around Liao Haomiao tightened, as if she was afraid he would suddenly run away. Liao Haomiao looked down at Zhu Tao in his arms, and all his dissatisfaction and helplessness vanished in an instant. Was his attitude toward Zhu Tao because the novelty had worn off? Was it just because he was tired from work that he should blame Zhu Tao for not finding a job? That would be too much. In that case, he should really blame himself for not being capable enough to let Zhu Tao live a better life with him. At this moment, even without the feeling of new love, he shouldn't have the thought of breaking up with Zhu Tao. No one can hold on to the feeling of new love forever. Everyone hopes to maintain that initial passion with their partner, but reality doesn't always go as planned. Now, for him, it should be more about duty and responsibility. His liking for Zhu Tao had turned into love, a selfless love that was simply about wanting the other person to be well. Even if they didn't end up together, she could still live well as long as she was happy and content. Of course, if that happiness and contentment were brought by him, that would be the best. "I will absolutely not leave you. Absolutely not." Liao Haomiao held Zhu Tao tightly. The blanket slipped off her body as they embraced tightly. In the dark bedroom, time seemed to stand still. They seemed to have returned to the very beginning, to when Liao Haomiao had rushed to Zhu Tao's house and said to her, "Because you need me, so I came." It was the same now. Liao Haomiao also wanted to say to Zhu Tao again, "Because you need me, so I will not leave." Okay, don't cry anymore. Baby is the best. Okay? I won't leave you, never. Don't be sad." Liao Haomiao comforted Zhu Tao for a long time. After crying, Zhu Tao became very clingy, hugging Liao Haomiao tightly and not letting go. Even when he needed to go to the restroom, she had to follow him. After a while, Liao Haomiao carried Zhu Tao to the sofa, covered her with a small blanket, and saw that she was still looking at him with teary eyes. Liao Haomiao couldn't help but smile faintly. "All right, you must be hungry after crying for so long. Let's not order takeout, it's not good. I'll go cook for you." Liao Haomiao stroked Zhu Tao's head and said softly, "Emun." Zhu Tao sniffled and then nodded. She still wanted to eat Liao Haomiao's cooking. She was used to it now and didn't really like eating food made by others. Liao Haomiao went to the kitchen, tied on an apron, and started cooking. He no longer felt any fatigue or pressure. He just felt that they were just beginning. He was still so young. How could he feel so tired already? Especially when he had someone he wanted to bring happiness to. He couldn't just give up. After the food was ready, Liao Haomiao brought the dishes to the dining table and called for Zhu Tao to eat. Zhu Tao had already adjusted her mood and held back her tears. The moment Liao Haomiao had walked out, she had felt truly uneasy, feeling like she was about to be abandoned. Perhaps this was the so-called abandoned cat effect. She had been separated from Liao Haomiao once before, so she was extra careful now. If she were to be separated from him again, she knew there would be no going back. Just now, on the sofa, watching Liao Haomiao's figure cooking in the kitchen, she understood that her happiness could only be given by Liao Haomiao. She wouldn't be happy without him. So many people were better than Liao Haomiao, but he was simply irreplaceable. The two sat at the dining table to eat. Zhu Tao took a bite, put it in her mouth, and her mood instantly improved. The corners of her mouth turned up, and she swayed her body slightly. "MMM. Baby's cooking is still the best," Zhu Tao said happily, while Liao Haomiao smiled with a little helplessness and put a lot of food into her bowl. After a while, Liao Haomiao thought of something and asked, "By the way, didn't you say you have another interview tomorrow? Where are you interviewing?" "MMM. There's one more company, Ilan. This is my last choice." Zhu Tao's eating speed slowed down. She lowered her head and answered in a small voice. She couldn't believe she was so useless that she couldn't even find a job. She had already decided that if this interview didn't work out, she wouldn't bother with those companies anymore. She would just find any job. At least she would have a monthly income and not be an idler at home. As long as she could help share Liao Haomiao's pressure, it would be fine. Otherwise, seeing him so tired, she could only worry and feel sorry for him. Ilan, huh? I heard their reputation isn't very good. They seem unreliable. Maybe you should just forget about it." Liao Haomiao could also hear a lot of inside information at his company, including news about this company, Ilan. He heard it was very unreliable, exploited employees, cheated them, and bent the law. Liao Haomiao was not at ease letting Zhu Tao go to a company like that. It would be better not to go at all. "But I don't have any other choices." "Then, how about you think about it? Are there any jobs you can do from home? I remember Sister Shun Lini seems to work from home, right?" Liao Haomiao actually didn't want Zhu Tao to work in an office. After entering society, he realized how difficult it was to get by. He didn't want Zhu Tao to suffer this hardship. If possible, he really hoped Zhu Tao could work from home and not have to deal with those people outside. Zhu Tao shook her head and said, "How can I compare to her? Do you know how outstanding she is? If I could do that, I wouldn't have to worry about interviews or anything. I'd be much more confident. Are there other jobs you can do from home? What about looking for part-time jobs online? For example, writing web novels. Let's forget it. What if I starve to death writing that stuff?" Zhu Tao refused without hesitation. Her mind was empty. How could she write? Liao Haomiao also started to worry. He tapped the table and muttered, "If only you could come to my company, then I could take care of you." Of course, Liao Haomiao wanted Zhu Tao to work with him at the same company, but it wasn't realistic. They had tried before. Zhu Tao couldn't get into his company. "Why don't we ask Zhou Heng? Doesn't he work at Juanheng? Maybe he has a way." "What can he do?" "He can't get me into Juanheng. That's not realistic." "What about Yin Minggran? What is she doing now?" "Hey, right? I actually don't know." Liao Haomiao and Zhu Tao were suddenly stunned. They realized they had no idea what Yin Minggran was doing now. Last time, they had only asked about Zhou Heng's situation and knew that Yin Minggran was pregnant, but they hadn't asked about anything else. The last time they saw Yin Minggran was when she gave birth. After that, she must have been in her postpartum confinement period. So what was she doing now? Was she working somewhere? Or was she at home taking care of the baby? Zhu Tao opened Yimingran's social media feed and found that she also posted about the baby and photos with Zhou Heng, with no news about her work. Zhou Heng's family is well off, so he probably found a job for Yimingran too, right? Why don't you contact her? See if she can help you. "Well, okay, it's true I haven't contacted her in a long time. I should get in touch. Let's do it tomorrow. It's a bit too late today. Zhu Tao nodded. She felt that instead of worrying here, it was better to brainstorm and ask friends. Maybe they had a solution. After dinner, they cleaned the dining table together. Then, Liao Haomiao sat on the sofa, his hands subconsciously reaching for his pocket, where his cigarettes were. Every day at the company after lunch, he would go for a smoke. He was already used to it, smoking after a meal. But just as he put his hand there, he stopped, glanced at Zhu Tao in the kitchen, and then pulled his hand back. Although Zhu Tao said she didn't mind him smoking, it wasn't very good to just openly smoke at home. Just then, Zhu Tao came out of the kitchen and placed a small container in front of Liao Haomiao. Here. This is... Zhu Tao blinked and said, an ashtray. Where else are you going to flick your ashes? Be careful, don't burn a hole in the sofa. Oh, okay. Liao Haomiao hadn't expected Zhu Tao to adapt to his smoking so quickly. He had thought she would definitely be strongly against it. Just smoke a little less, okay? Zhu Tao looked at Liao Haomiao and asked in a gentle, negotiating tone. Liao Haomiao quickly nodded and promised. Yes, of course. I only have 4 or 5 a day. I'll try to smoke less. It would be even better if I could quit. Right. If you can quit, then quit as soon as possible. You can do it, Zhu Tao said happily, giving Liao Haomiao a thumbs-up gesture. Liao Haomiao took out the cigarettes from his pocket. They were a cheap brand because he didn't have money for good ones. He took one out, put it in his mouth, and then lit it with a lighter. Exhale. After lighting it, Liao Haomiao took a drag and slowly exhaled the smoke. At that moment, his eyes glanced over and saw Zhu Tao crouching beside him, watching him quietly. What's wrong? Liao Haomiao looked at Zhu Tao awkwardly and asked in a small voice. Zhu Tao chuckled, stood up, and said, Nothing. You look quite handsome when you smoke. After saying that, she went to the kitchen, leaving Liao Haomiao sitting there, stunned for a few seconds. Handsome? Am I? That night, after they both showered, they went back to the bedroom to sleep. Zhu Tao was feeling particularly insecure tonight, clinging tightly to Liao Haomiao in bed, not letting go even as she was about to fall asleep. The next morning, Liao Haomiao was woken up by his alarm clock. He opened his eyes and looked out the window at the sun that had just risen. When he looked to his side for Zhu Tao, he found that she wasn't next to him. Liao Haomiao was stunned for a moment. After realizing, he sat up in bed and put on his glasses from the side. Usually when he woke up, Zhu Tao would be sleeping soundly beside him. Why was she up so early today? When Liao Haomiao walked out of the bedroom, he found Zhu Tao was actually in the kitchen, either cooking or doing something. Hiss. Zhu Tao was wearing an apron, fiddling with something in the pot. She accidentally burned her hand and quickly blew on it. When she brought the food out, she saw Liao Haomiao coming out of the bedroom. She stood there, smiled awkwardly, and then placed the plate on the dining table. Liao Haomiao hadn't expected that it was actually breakfast she was preparing for him. The fried eggs were broken with some blackened, burnt bits, and they gave off an indescribable smell. There was also a cup of coffee, the color a bit pale. Liao Haomiao guessed Zhu Tao didn't know how much to put in, so there was too much water. Because the bread was pre-made, it was the only thing that looked edible. Morning, baby. I made you. Breakfast. Zhu Tao stood there, her hands nervously clutching her apron, her head bowed as she spoke in a small voice. Oh, okay. Liao Haomiao sat down. He didn't know why Zhu Tao, who never cooked, had suddenly made him breakfast this morning. Was it because of last night's incident? But hadn't that already passed? Hadn't they already made up? Was she still worried? Sorry, I don't know how to cook. I did my best. Zhu Tao was full of embarrassment. She had originally wanted to make a sumptuous and exquisite meal, but how did it turn out like this? This was completely different from what she had imagined. It's okay. After all, it's the first time you've made me breakfast. To be able to do this is already very good. I'll eat it all. Liao Haomiao didn't care about these things. He only cared about Zhu Tao's intentions. No matter how it was made, at least the thought was good. Seeing this breakfast could make his mood good for the whole day. Liao Haomiao first picked up a cup of coffee and took a sip. A small taste felt okay. It was just coffee with too much water. The taste was very bland. Then, he picked up his chopsticks and prepared to eat the fried eggs. Because they were all broken, he picked up a relatively large piece and put it in his mouth. Delicious, delicious. Under Zhu Tao's nervous gaze, Liao Haomiao swallowed, gave her a thumbs up, and nodded repeatedly. Really? Don't just say that to make me happy. It's burnt. Why don't you not eat it? You might get a stomachache. Zhu Tao was still a bit worried. The food she made looked unappetizing. There was no way it could be associated with delicious. But Liao Haomiao completely ignored what Zhu Tao was saying, put the fried eggs and a slice of bread, and took a big bite. I like it this way. It's fine. Liao Hao Miao finished it in a few bites, scraping the plate clean, not leaving a single bit. He also drank all the coffee. Zhu Tao just stood there, watching Liao Hao Miao eat, as if he were eating some kind of delicacy, when in fact it was something she had made that should have been thrown in the trash. After Liao Hao Miao finished eating, he wiped his mouth, stood up, came to Zhu Tao, suddenly cupped her cheeks, and kissed her on the lips, saying softly, "Thank you for your breakfast." After saying that, he went to the restroom to start getting ready. Zhu Tao stood there, pursed her lips, but a smile involuntarily appeared on her face, and her eyes revealed her joy. After Liao Hao Miao was ready, he found that Zhu Tao had also prepared his things for him. Standing at the door, Liao Hao Miao smiled faintly, put on his coat, walked to the door to take his things, and then left a light kiss on Zhu Tao's forehead. "I'm off to work." "Okay. Be careful on the road." "You can do it." "Okay." Liao Hao Miao walked out the door with a smile. His mood was very good today, a complete contrast to his state the previous night. He now understood that Zhu Tao's attitude could determine his mood. Her attitude today filled him with motivation. And the reason she was like that was because of his promise, because of his love for her. So in a relationship, there must be mutual giving. One person's obsession cannot sustain a relationship. Mutual response and giving can make the relationship between two people more intimate and stable, and they can also live a good life together. Liao Hao Miao and Zhu Tao both understood this principle now, and at the same time, they knew what to do in the future. After Liao Hao Miao left for work, Zhu Tao began to clean the house, washing the dishes from earlier. Then, she started to think about how to find a job. I should contact Ran, see what she's been up to lately. Ran, are you there? How have you been lately? It's been a long time since we've been in touch. I kind of miss you. After sending the message, Zhu Tao felt a bit shameless. She hadn't contacted the other person in a long time, and now that she was suddenly reaching out, it was with an ulterior motive. How could she have a nerve? But it wasn't that she didn't want to get in touch. It was just that she felt it would be abrupt and didn't know what to say, just like now. Zhu Tao sighed, sat on the sofa, and stared blankly ahead, wondering what she should say if Min Gran replied. Buzz. Just then, Zhu Tao's phone vibrated. The message had been replied to. She quickly picked it up and looked at her phone. "I miss you too. Come visit me when you have time, okay? I'm in Huzhou." Seeing Min Gran's message, Zhu Tao knew that Min Gran hadn't changed at all. She was still so friendly, still treated her as a friend. But in Huzhou, she hadn't been there much. Many years ago, she had gone on a trip with a group of good friends, but other than that, she didn't have much of an impression of Huzhou. It should be quite far, right? Zhu Tao glanced at the train tickets and found that the high-speed train from her location to Huzhou took 2 hours. Not too far, but not too close either. If she went there, she would have to stay for at least a day or two. Otherwise, it would be too much of a hassle. "Sure, I'd love to. I wanted to see the baby anyway. He must be so cute." Zhu Tao replied, then sent a message to Liao Hao Miao to ask for his opinion. After all, if she went to Huzhou, she couldn't possibly come back on the same day. Liao Hao Miao's opinion was also simple. He thought it was a good idea for Zhu Tao to go see Min Gran. Even if it was just to hang out with a friend and relax, it was better than staying at home all day. Her mood would improve a lot, and only with a good mindset would she be suited to look for a job. Otherwise, she would just be desperately trying anything. Liao Hao Miao even directly transferred money to Zhu Tao so she could buy a train ticket to Huzhou very readily. However, Zhu Tao didn't dare to spend a single extra cent of this money. Every extra cent spent would mean one less cent for their living expenses, and their life would be even harder. Right now, it was as if both their families were supporting their small family together. Only then could they barely get by. Zhu Tao and Min Gran set a time, and then she bought a high-speed train ticket for the afternoon, which gave her time to pack her luggage. Zhu Tao went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror, stunned for a few seconds. She had changed quite a bit, not in her appearance or figure, but in her aura. When she was in school, she used to dress exquisitely every day with a variety of styles. She could be cute, or she could be alluring. In any case, her aura was absolutely top-notch. But now, she was wearing loose clothes, her hair was tied up, she had no makeup on, and her complexion looked very average. This image was a complete contrast to her former self. Before, she could be called a campus beauty or goddess. Now she looked more like a listless shut-in girl. Sigh. She now needed a long time to properly tidy herself up. She couldn't go see her good friend looking like this. It was a very long process. By the time she had tidied herself up, it was already the afternoon. When she stood in front of the mirror again, she had completely transformed into a different person. Her former aura seemed to have returned, and she was astonishingly beautiful. This improved her mood a lot. She realized that tidying herself up properly was to please herself, and it would make her very happy. Afterward, Zhu Tao packed her luggage, tidied up the house, and left a note for Liao Hao Miao in the refrigerator, reminding him of a few things. Remember to eat the potatoes in the fridge today. Don't smoke in bed. Remember to close the cap on the facial cleanser after using it. Don't forget to hang up the clothes after washing them. The note was long. Zhu Tao wrote many things, read it over several times to make sure there was nothing else, and then left home with her suitcase, feeling relieved. She hadn't gone out alone in a long time, and to such a distant place. She arrived at the high-speed train station alone, feeling a little nervous. While waiting for the train, she kept looking at her phone, chatting with Liao Hao Miao. After waiting for about 10 minutes, she finally boarded the high-speed train to Huzhou. Looking at the scenery outside the window, she felt a little dazed. The world is so big. Is it really that difficult for her and Liao Hao Miao to live happily? In dreams, you never lack anything, but reality is the complete opposite. It seems you lack everything. But when the other person is always by your side, it feels like you don't lack anything. Doot. Just then, Zhu Tao received a video call. She picked it up and saw it was from Mingran. She quickly fixed her hair, and after confirming there were no flaws, she accepted the call. Then, she saw Mingran's face appear on her phone. She smiled happily when she saw her. Hello, beautiful. Are you on your way? I'm on my way. I'm on the high-speed train. I'll be there in just over an hour. Zhu Tao also smiled and waved, greeting Mingran. Okay, then I'll get ready and go to the high-speed train station to pick you up. Huh, don't you have to work? Zhu Tao glanced at Mingran's background, which seemed to be an office. She must be at work, right? So how could she come pick her up? It's okay. I don't have much work this afternoon. Yuling Xue will help me, right? Ha ha. As Mingran spoke, she looked off-screen and smiled. Yuling Xue's voice could be heard from off-screen. Yeah, don't worry. I'll come find you guys after I get off work. Zhu Tao was a little surprised. She hadn't expected Mingran to be able to pick her up just because she didn't have much work in the afternoon. Such a flexible job. They were at work, but they seemed so happy. Okay, good. I'll let you know when I'm about to arrive. By the way, are the others free? Let's haul them all out, my treat. Zhu Tao thought of the others. Since she was there, she should invite all the friends she could and treat them to a meal. Mingran thought for a moment. There weren't many of them in Huzhou. Most were in Dongzhou. Zhou Heng and Tang Ji were very busy lately. She didn't know if they could make it after work. The others were probably busy too. Okay, I'll try to ask them, but I don't know if they're free. The high-speed train arrived. Zhu Tao was in the city once again, but her mood was completely different. Looking at the scenery before her, she noted that Huzhou seemed to have changed a bit for the better. Even the high-speed train station had been renovated and had a lot of character. Zhu Tao dragged her suitcase to the exit and noticed some details. There was a lot of electronic equipment at the exit, such as large advertising screens, service robots, and so on. Every single electronic device was marked with the same company. Huzhou City Tianheng Electronic Technology Co. LT Tianheng. Zhu Tao was very familiar with the company Tianheng. Its development trend in recent years could be described as advancing by leaps and bounds, and it had become very well known among the public. As a result, the threshold for entering the company had also become very high. She knew she definitely didn't stand a chance. She couldn't even get into companies that were far worse than Tianheng. There was no need to even consider Tianheng. After walking out of the high-speed train station, Zhu Tao looked ahead, trying to find a familiar figure in the crowd. Hello, Tao Tao. I'm here. She saw her. Not far away, Mingran was waving at her. Seeing her, Zhu Tao smiled and quickly dragged her suitcase over. Ran, I'm here. Long time no see. After the two successfully met, they looked extremely happy, holding hands, their faces filled with joy. Zhu Tao was also a little incredulous. She couldn't believe Mingran was still the same as before. You couldn't tell at all that she had given birth. Where's the baby? Why didn't you bring him? Someone's taking care of him. I was afraid it would be inconvenient to bring him. Who's taking care of him? Yuling Xue? Can she handle it alone? No, it's not just her. There's also a friend of mine. She's taking care of the baby, so I feel more at ease. Mingran thought about how, before she left, she hadn't known who to ask to take care of the baby. Yuling Xue was busy, and Lu Wei had even less time. She could only ask someone else. She had originally wanted to ask Tong Yining to take care of him, but she was too far away and couldn't get there in time. So, she thought of another person. That was Dong Xingya. When she learned that Mingran wanted her help to look after the baby, she was overjoyed, agreed without a second thought, and arrived at Tianheng as quickly as possible. The two left the high-speed train station together. Yin Mingran first found a hotel for Zhu Tao to stay in and helped her put her luggage inside. Then, they went to a coffee shop downstairs to sit for a while, because it wasn't long until Yuling Xue got off work. They planned to wait for a bit. Liao Haomiao didn't come with you? What, is he busy? Yin Mingran asked, because the two of them always used to act together, so Yin Mingran had thought they would come together. But she only saw Zhu Tao alone, without Liao Haomiao. This had made Yin Mingran pause for a moment. Coming alone, with luggage, so suddenly. Could it be that they had a fight? Yes, he's at work and doesn't have time to come. He said he'll see if he has time in a couple of days to come and hang out with your Zhou Hong. Zhu Tao had just been chatting with Liao Haomiao, reporting that she had arrived safely in Huzhou and had already met Yin Mingran. This would put Liao Haomiao's mind at ease. Otherwise, he was always worried about Zhu Tao traveling far on her own. You guys live quite far away. Do you want to move back? There are more friends here. Most of our friends are in Huzhou and Dongzhou. Oh, right, Liao Haomiao has to work, doesn't he? Yin Mingran still hoped they could move back. It would be more lively if everyone could hang out together. Since starting university, Liao Haomiao and Zhu Tao seemed to have flown solo, rarely able to hang out with them. This made them feel helpless. They had been so close before, but because of the distance, they couldn't hang out together. It was as painful as a long-distance relationship. Zhu Tao actually really wanted to move back now, at least in the city they lived in. It was too hard for her to find a job. Even Liao Haomiao had said many times that he wasn't satisfied with his current job. If he had any other choice, he would resign without hesitation. But he couldn't right now. Zhu Tao didn't have a job, so he had to earn money. Otherwise, how would they eat? How would they keep their place? How would they survive? So Liao Haomiao was also forcing himself to face those annoying people every day, to face the work that disgusted him, just for the sake of living. So, we want to come back, but where will we stay? It's the same everywhere. Zhu Tao showed a look of disappointment, which made Yin Mingran very puzzled. She asked, "What's wrong? Why do you say that?" Zhu Tao glanced at Yin Mingran, momentarily finding it hard to speak. After a moment of silence, she finally told her everything. She explained that she and Liao Haomiao were under a lot of pressure, and they even had some minor friction last night. After listening, Yin Mingran finally understood what was going on. In short, they were living very frugally. Their salary couldn't support the two of them, especially since Zhu Tao didn't have a job and they had to rely solely on Liao Haomiao. One could imagine how much pressure Liao Haomiao was under. The fact that he had persisted until now was already proof of how capable he was, and also proof of his love for Zhu Tao. Yin Mingran took a deep breath, her expression becoming very serious. She looked at Zhu Tao with a slight frown and said softly, "In that case, you guys should move back even more. There are so many friends here who can help you. Over there, you can only rely on each other, which is very tiring." Help! A light instantly appeared in Zhu Tao's eyes. When she looked at Yin Mingran, there was a faint hint of expectation. To be honest, even though she was extremely embarrassed to ask Yin Mingran for help, she also hoped to receive it. After all, the main purpose of her trip was to ask for Yin Mingran's opinion and see if she had any solutions to their current problems. Didn't you just say you want to find a job? And Liao Haomiao also wants to change his job? If possible, would you be willing to stay in Huzhou? I can find a way to get you jobs, and I can also solve your housing situation. At least it would save you a large sum of money on rent. Really? But isn't that too much trouble for you? Helping us find jobs and a place to live, this won't do. It's too much trouble for you. Zhu Tao was suddenly overjoyed, but also worried that these things would be too much trouble for Yin Mingran. They had no way to repay her for doing all this for them. Yin Mingran waved her hand and said with a smile, "No trouble at all. My abilities are also limited. What do you think of Tianheng? Are you willing to work at Tianheng?" Wait. Zhu Tao suspected she had misheard. She couldn't understand what Yin Mingran was saying. Asking if she was willing to work at Tianheng. Was this a matter of willingness? Would she say no? Besides, even if she said yes, could she just go and work at Tianheng? It wasn't that simple. Tianheng was countless times better than all the companies she had interviewed with before. Perhaps all of them combined couldn't compare to Tianheng. If those companies didn't want her, how could Tianheng possibly want her? Ran, are you working at Tianheng? Zhu Tao asked. She hadn't asked about Yin Mingran's situation before. No wonder Yin Mingran hadn't told them she was pregnant for so long. It was because they hadn't taken the initiative to ask. Yin Mingran was stunned for a moment, blinking a couple of times. It was then that she realized Zhu Tao didn't know about her job. No wonder she said those things. It was because she didn't know that Min Gran actually had the ability to help her. Yes, that's right. I work at Tianheng, and so does Yuling Xue. That's why I'm asking you if you're willing to come to Tianheng. That way, we'd have company, and we could also look after you. Zhu Tao gave a bitter smile and said, I'm willing, of course, but I'm sure I won't pass the interview. And I'm not prepared either. It's fine, as long as you're willing. Then, an interview tomorrow, what do you think? What? Tomorrow? Is this interview something I can just decide to have tomorrow? Zhu Tao's eyes widened in shock as she stared at Min Gran. In the past, when she sent out her resume, she couldn't even get an interview appointment. Out of so many companies, only a few had agreed to interview her, and all of them had ended in failure. She now had a kind of fear of interviews, trembling in front of HR. A single glance could scare her out of her wits, as if in the next second she would hear, I'm sorry, and then she would have to leave in disgrace. So now, being asked to interview at Tianheng or something, she was scared from the bottom of her heart, with not a shred of confidence left, worried she would be kicked out again. Seeing Zhu Tao's expression, Min Gran smiled faintly and nodded. Of course. Tomorrow, you go for an interview at Tianheng. How about it? Are you serious? You're not kidding, right? Of course it's true. Why would I joke about something like this? You just go for the interview tomorrow. Leave the rest to me. Leave it to you. Zhu Tao couldn't help but swallow. Although she was still very nervous, Min Gran's words were so full of confidence that for a moment, they gave her a lot of confidence. But an interview tomorrow was a bit too rushed, wasn't it? She hadn't even revised her resume. To apply to a big company like Tianheng, she should revise her resume carefully, otherwise they would just throw it away without even looking. Okay, no problem. Anyway, I'm already here. I've got nothing to lose. I've been rejected so many times. One more won't make a difference. Seeing Min Gran's confident look, Zhu Tao also instantly gained confidence. She had been rejected so many times before. Being rejected by those companies would make her very depressed. But being rejected by Tianheng, she felt, should be no big deal. Being rejected would be normal, a very normal thing, nothing to make a fuss about. So, she decided to give it a try, just treat it as a fun experience. After a while, Yuling Xue also got off work. The three girls went out for dinner together. During the meal, Yuling Xue also heard about Zhu Tao's situation. Her opinion was the same as Min Gran's. She hoped that Zhu Tao and Liao Haomiao would come back to Huzhou or go to Dongzhou so they could look out for each other and not be without friends over there. They had all graduated, and Zhu Tao still didn't have a job there. She could only amuse herself. She had to wait for Liao Haomiao to get off work to talk to him. She was alone most of the time, which would definitely be unbearable in the long run. After repeated persuasion from the two of them, Zhu Tao was also a little tempted. She was ready. That night, after returning to the hotel, she would have a good talk with Liao Haomiao about this. She mainly had to prioritize Liao Haomiao because he had a job, and it was so hard and tiring. She had no right to decide on such a big matter. She had to go back and discuss it with him properly. That night, after the three of them finished dinner, they prepared to go their separate ways. Zhu Tao also returned to the hotel. Lying alone on the bed, Zhu Tao had a video chat with Liao Haomiao. They were originally talking about other things. As they chatted, Zhu Tao felt the time was about right and suddenly changed the subject. Baby, what do you think? If I were to stay in Huzhou, I feel it would be easier to find a job here. Of course, if you're not willing. As Zhu Tao spoke, she could feel her little heart pounding. She was worried that Liao Haomiao would be angry because of what she said. Who knew that Liao Haomiao would fall silent, stunned for a few seconds, before slowly speaking. I think that's fine, but I don't want to be separated from you. If you want to stay in Huzhou, then I'll go with you. Zhu Tao's mouth fell open as she stared in utter disbelief at Liao Haomiao's face on her phone. What Liao Haomiao had just said had a huge impact on her little heart. In an instant, she was smitten. For her, the most heart-fluttering words might not be, I love you, but I'll be with you. What she needed most was unconditional companionship. You can do whatever you want, and I will be with you. This feeling was captivating. But, your work. It's fine. I can just find another job. It's okay. What you just said is also right. Staying here, it's like we're cut off from the world. We can't see our friends, which isn't very interesting. Liao Haomiao had also thought it through. He felt that Zhu Tao was right. If they were around their friends, they could occasionally go out and hang out together, which could reduce a lot of troubles. If he had been able to go have a drink with Zhou Heng last night, then none of those things would have been a big deal. It would have been fine once his emotions were released. Then I'll go for an interview at Tianheng tomorrow, see if I can get a job there. Do you think I can do it? Although Ran said she can help me, I still feel I don't have much confidence. Liao Haomiao's lips curved up in a slight smile. and he said, "I believe you can do it." The next morning, Zhu Tao woke up early. She had submitted her resume to Tianheng Online the night before and wanted to check the results this morning. Although Min Gran had said to just leave it to her, Zhu Tao still felt it wouldn't be that simple. After getting up and washing her face, she opened her laptop. A glance showed that she had indeed received an email. Zhu Tao looked closely, her eyes widening. She had actually received an interview invitation. Was it really that simple? They were just letting her come in for an interview? Zhu Tao quickly shared the good news with Liao Haomiao and Min Gran, then hurried to get ready. She had to tidy herself up properly. She couldn't go looking sloppy. She needed to make a good impression on the interviewer, as first impressions often decide everything. The email said the interview was at 10 in the morning, so her time was tight. She had to be ready by 9:30 and didn't dare to be lazy. Within half an hour, she was all set, careful not to wear too much makeup, just a light, natural look, and she was dressed appropriately. With 40 minutes left before the interview, she planned to leave early and arrive ahead of time. After reaching Tianheng, she waited by the entrance, planning to go in when it was closer to the time. There were many other interviewees at the door who had the same idea. Arrive early, wait, observe the situation, and prepare mentally so as not to rush in and perform poorly. After a while, a figure talking on the phone hurried over, preparing to enter the company. She glanced to the side and happened to see Zhu Tao standing there, silently mumbling her lines. "Hey, Zhu Tao, what are you doing standing out here? Let's go in." The person was Yu Lingxue, who had seen Zhu Tao while rushing to work. It's not time for the interview yet. I'll just wait here for a bit. You should get to work. Don't worry about me. I'm fine." Zhu Tao waved her hands and shook her head, declining Yu Lingxue's kind offer. Mostly, she didn't dare to go in. Who knew that Yu Lingxue would just grab her wrist without another word and try to pull her inside? "Hey, wait. No." Zhu Tao was momentarily flustered. She glanced back at the other job applicants waiting with her, who were now all looking at her. The security guard at the entrance, standing ramrod straight, was also staring at her, which made her a bit scared. As it turned out, when Yu Lingxue led her to the entrance, the guard proactively made way for them and even greeted Yu Lingxue. "Morning, Assistant Yu. You're a bit early today." "Yeah, morning. I have a few things to take care of, so I came in early." "Is Assistant in here yet?" "She's already here. Arrived half an hour ago." "Oh, the baby even waved at me today. So cute." "Haha, really?" Seeing how familiar Yu Lingxue was with the guard, Zhu Tao was a little surprised. This company had so many people, yet the guard knew Yu Lingxue, and he called her Assistant Yu. What kind of assistant? It must be a high-ranking position, right? Otherwise, why would this guard be so polite to Yu Lingxue? In her memory, security guards were always fierce. When she interviewed at other companies before, she had encountered those fierce guards who would loudly shout at you and chase you away if you tried to enter before the interview time. It was terrifying. Subsequently, Yu Lingxue led Zhu Tao into the company. Everyone who saw Yu Lingxue greeted her, calling her Assistant Yu, which seemed very impressive. Now Zhu Tao understood. Yu Lingxue's position was not low, and Imingran's position was definitely not low either. No wonder Min Gran said she could help her. With a high position and great power, helping someone was not a difficult task. "Okay, you can wait by the interview area for a bit. Don't be nervous. Just leave everything to us." Yu Lingxue turned her head, patted Zhu Tao's shoulder, and comforted her softly. Now Zhu Tao had no choice but to believe it. Her confidence soared, and she nodded emphatically. "Okay." Yu Lingxue left first, and Zhu Tao stayed by the interview room door, sitting down. The other job applicants also came in and sat beside Zhu Tao, waiting for the interviews to begin. Around 10 o'clock, a few interviewers walked over, glanced at the seated applicants, and then went into the room. Zhu Tao knew the interviews were about to start. She held her resume, her mind constantly rehearsing the words she needed to say, hoping to know them by heart so she wouldn't stumble. They were assigned numbers. Zhu Tao was number 7, meaning she would be the 7th to be interviewed. A large screen in front slowly lowered and lit up, showing that applicant number 1 should prepare, with a 3-minute countdown. This time was for the applicant to mentally prepare. After the 3 minutes were up, they would go in for the interview. However, as time ticked by, number 1 clearly grew more and more nervous. It wasn't until the last half minute that she took a few deep breaths and regained her composure. The countdown ended, and the interview officially began. Number 1 stood up and walked in to start her interview. The others were equally nervous. Zhu Tao's state was still okay. She had been very nervous before, but seeing how confident Yu Lingxue and Min Gran were, she wasn't as anxious anymore. She just needed to perform normally, right? If she were rejected again, she wouldn't be so dejected. She could only say she had tried her best, so there would be nothing to regret. Number 1 came out after only 2 minutes, head down, looking extremely dejected. Seeing the first person fail like that, the others actually felt a little more hopeful. If the people ahead all passed, wouldn't the ones at the back be at a disadvantage? But what they didn't expect was that the next few people, from number 1 to number 6, all failed. Not a single one was successful. This finally made them realize the strictness of Tianheng's interviews. They didn't dare to relax their guard, tensing up and starting to seriously think about how to answer the questions. Zhu Tao looked up and saw that it was almost her turn. She took a deep breath, then slowly exhaled. She took out her phone and sent a message to Liao Haomiao. "I'm about to interview. Wish me luck. Go for it." Then, she put away her phone, took her resume, and walked in. The room was large. 5 people sat in front, looking very serious. Zhu Tao was no stranger to such scenes. She walked over naturally, bowed to them, and began her self-introduction. "Hello, everyone. My name is Zhu Tao. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to interview with your company." Just as Zhu Tao was halfway through, there was a knock on the door. After a few knocks, it was pushed open directly. Seeing the person who walked in, Zhu Tao's eyes instantly widened in surprise. The 5 interviewers also quickly stood up and said in unison, "Assistant Yin." The person who had arrived was none other than Yin Mingran. She walked in and gave a slight smile to the few HR staff. Dressed in a chic, small suit, she looked like a mature, career-oriented woman. She also looked at Zhu Tao, who was sitting there, and secretly gave her a wink, a mischievous smile playing on her lips that was hard to hide. Zhu Tao was still in a daze. Seeing Yin Mingran smile, she seemed to understand something. Yin Mingran then walked over to the HR staff and said softly, "The Weighing Systems team is short-staffed. I'm here to recruit a few people. You don't mind, do you?" "Weighing Systems? Not at all, not at all. Please have a seat." The person in the middle immediately gave up his seat for Yin Mingran to sit, while he took another chair and sat to the side. After Yin Mingran sat down, she crossed her legs, picked up Zhu Tao's resume from the table, glanced at it, then looked at Zhu Tao in front of her and said, "All right, please continue." Yin Mingran's sudden appearance had disrupted Zhu Tao's original rhythm, leaving her mind blank for a moment. She stammered, unable to speak. "This is the president's assistant, Assistant Yin. Perform well. It would be very fortunate to be selected by her." The president's assistant. Zhu Tao finally understood Yin Mingran's identity, a look of surprise on her face. She had thought Yin Mingran's position was high, but she never imagined it was this high. Amidst her surprise, Yin Mingran gave her another reassuring look. This time, Zhu Tao felt no nervousness at all. With her good friend backing her up, what was there to be afraid of? Zhu Tao stood up, looking much more confident, straightened her posture, and continued, "My name is Zhu Tao. I am 24 years old, and I graduated from." Zhu Tao's voice was clear. With her nervousness gone, her self-introduction was very smooth. From time to time, she would meet Yin Mingran's gaze, and the two would share a smile. After she finished her introduction, the HR staff didn't dare to say anything on their own initiative. The previous interviewees had been asked to leave after their self-introductions. Those introductions were all cookie-cutter. They, as HR, had heard them thousands of times, to the point their ears were calloused. They had heard many brilliant self-introductions, too. The confident and boastful type, the pitiful and sympathy-seeking type, the timid and forgetful type. As for Zhu Tao's self-introduction, their evaluation could only be that it was standard and proper. They couldn't find any faults, but that was also its biggest flaw. It didn't stand out. They interviewed many people every day. How could they remember everyone? To be remembered, one had to highlight their unique characteristics. Zhu Tao's performance was just neat, with good rhythm and pacing, but nothing else special. According to protocol, they should have politely asked Zhu Tao to leave. But now things were a little different. They were no longer the ones in charge. They didn't have the final say. The decision lay in the hands of the person with the highest position, and that was Yin Mingran. The group all looked towards Yin Mingran in the middle, wanting to see her intention. Yin Mingran pretended to look at the resume again, then lifted her head and said, "The Weighing Systems team is a newly established research group. You can learn the specifics after joining. There happens to be a position that is very suitable for you, so I wanted to ask if you would be willing to join." Zhu Tao didn't know what the Weighing Systems team did, but she knew very well that Yin Mingran wouldn't harm her. So, without a second thought, she nodded and replied, "Yes, I'm willing." "Good." Yin Mingran smiled slightly and nodded, looking very satisfied. The HR staff could also see that Yin Mingran intended to keep Zhu Tao, so one of them spoke up, "Congratulations on passing the first round of interviews. Next, there will be..." No, Before he could finish, Yin Ming-gran waved her hand, interrupting him. The subsequent interviews won't trouble your department. I'll be taking her after the first round. She will be interviewed personally by the team leader. Ah, all right. Hearing Yin Ming-ran's words, Zhu Tao raised her eyebrows, a look of pleasant surprise on her face. Did this mean she didn't have to participate in the next few rounds of interviews? When Yin Ming-gran didn't acknowledge her as a friend, she understood that Yin Ming-ran's actions were likely for others to see. Logically, with such a high position, she could have easily gotten someone a job at Tianheng. But as Yin Ming-ran's friend, if she got in through connections so casually, it would definitely have an impact if people found out. The higher the position, the more susceptible one was to gossip, which could have a huge effect on a company. So, if she wanted to get into Tianheng, even with Yin Ming-ran's help, she had to do two things. First, she needed to have real skills. She couldn't be incompetent at everything. That would cause a lot of trouble for Yin Ming-gran. Second, they had to maintain a good front. The side they showed to others had to be believable, without any clues being detected. Otherwise, gossip spread very quickly these days. After it was over, Zhu Tao temporarily left the room. As she walked out, a hand pulled her away. "Ah, Xiao Xue, you scared me." The person who pulled her away was Yu Ling Xue, who seemed to have been waiting for her outside for a long time. Yu Ling Xue turned back, smiled at her, and said, "All right, let Ran handle the rest. I'll take you to see the baby." "The baby? Okay. Can he talk yet?" "Haha, not yet, but he babbles, and it's super cute." Zhu Tao followed Yu Ling Xue to Yin Ming-ran's office, where she saw Yin Ming-ran's baby. Zhu Tao held the baby for a while, and suddenly felt that maybe children weren't as scary as she had imagined. The baby was quiet in her arms, soft and fragrant, and so cute. After more than 2 hours, while the two were chatting, the office door was suddenly pushed open. They looked up and saw Yin Ming-gran had returned. She was holding something in her hand. Thud! She threw the object onto the table, then sat down on the sofa herself, muttering, "Phew, I'm exhausted." Zhu Tao took a closer look and saw that it was a work ID. She picked it up and saw that the person on it was herself. It was her work ID. This is mine." Zhu Tao was at a loss for words. She looked at Yin Ming-gran, never expecting that she had just been hired by Tianheng. Was it really that simple? Yin Ming-gran gave a faint smile and said to her, "I told you, didn't I? I'd help you. Wow, Ran, I love you so much." Zhu Tao cried out happily, throwing her arms around Yin Ming-gran and hugging her so tightly that Yin Ming-gran could barely breathe. All right, it's just a small thing. I told you my abilities are limited. This is as much as I can help you. Don't you go finding fault with me." What Yin Ming-gran was worried about was that Zhu Tao would find fault with her, thinking that with such a high position as the president's assistant, she should have been able to get her into Tianheng directly instead of going through so much trouble, and that the position she was given wasn't very high, making her assistant role seem useless. But in reality, Yin Ming-gran had already helped Zhu Tao to the greatest extent possible. No one else could receive such treatment. After all, she wasn't the president. She had to be aware of her position at all times. If she started thinking she was the master of Tianheng and acted without rules, she would be disappointing Lu Wei, who had high hopes for her. "Oh, what are you talking about? How could I possibly find fault with you? I don't even know how to repay you. You're amazing, Ran. You really helped me find a job at Tianheng." As it turned out, Yin Ming-ran's worries were unnecessary. Zhu Tao hadn't wanted to trouble Yin Ming-gran in the first place. She came here wanting Yin Ming-gran to give her some ideas, but more so to hang out with her. She never expected Yin Ming-gran to actually solve her problem. And so quickly, in just half a day, she had solved a problem that had plagued her for months. Hearing Zhu Tao's words, Yin Ming-gran also felt relieved. She nodded and smiled. "Well then, let's go celebrate tonight. How about it?" "Okay." Zhu Tao immediately told Liao Haomiao the good news, but Liao Haomiao simply replied with a "okay" and nothing more. Zhu Tao found it strange. Wasn't this great news? Shouldn't he be happy for her? Why was his reply so flat? But Zhu Tao didn't press further, just thinking that Liao Haomiao was busy and didn't have time to reply. In the afternoon, Yin Ming-gran gave Zhu Tao a tour of her workplace, which left her in awe. She felt the workspace for this team was a bit too extravagant, like stepping into another world, a world of technology. At the same time, the pressure mounted. Having a job was certainly something to be happy about, but the most important thing was how to keep it. Working in a place like this required special attention. She couldn't let her guard down. In the evening, the three of them left work together. Yin Ming-gran held her baby, with Yu Ling Xue and Zhu Tao following. They went out to eat to celebrate for Zhu Tao. At the restaurant, Yin Ming-gran first called Zhou Hong. The phone rang a few times before it was answered. Hello, honey, are you off work? Yeah, are you still busy? In Min Gran listened to the sounds on the other end. Zhou Hong was still typing on a keyboard, seemingly holding the phone between his ear and shoulder. Yeah, I'll probably be busy late into the night again, but then I'll be free tomorrow to come see you and the baby. Really? You're coming tomorrow? Okay, but you need to rest too. Don't get too tired, all right? Honey. Okay, I know, don't worry. Let me tell you, Zhu Tao started working at Tianheng. I heard Liao Hao Miao might be coming too, just don't know when. Really? Okay, I'll give him a call later and ask. The two chatted for a few more sentences before hanging up. Yuling Xue was also chatting with Bai Cong and even stepped out to take a call after a while. Zhu Tao, however, looked at her own phone, which remained silent, feeling a bit empty inside. Her last message with Liao Hao Miao was from Noon, with his okay. When she sent another message, he hadn't replied. Sigh. Zhu Tao lowered her head and sighed. At times like this, she tended to overthink. Even though they had been together for many years, she was still very clingy. When Liao Hao Miao didn't reply to her, she would feel a little insecure. She started letting her imagination run wild. Could it be that Liao Hao Miao felt it was a relief that she had left him now? Would he use this opportunity to break up with her? Would he cut off contact from now on, so she couldn't find him? Even though Liao Hao Miao had given her plenty of security, they had been separated in middle school, and that was a memory that she would worry about reoccurring for the rest of her life. BZT. Just then, Zhu Tao's phone suddenly vibrated. She picked it up at lightning speed, and saw it was a call from Liao Hao Miao. A light instantly appeared in her eyes. She quickly answered the video call. On the other end, Liao Hao Miao was holding his phone, walking outside as if on his way home, a smile on his face, looking very happy. Babe, I quit my job. I'm going to pack my things when I get back, then buy a ticket for tomorrow. I'll mail our stuff directly. How does that sound? No. What? Zhu Tao listened to what Liao Hao Miao was saying through the phone, her brain momentarily failing to process it. She stammered. You told me at noon you found a job, and I immediately went to resign. It was so satisfying. You have no idea the look on the face of that team leader who always used to bully me. I finally stood up to him. It felt great. I hate our landlord too. I can finally move out. Liao Hao Miao spoke happily, his face beaming with a smile. He looked as if he had been liberated, and his mood was exceptionally good on the way home. It was only then that Zhu Tao realized that after she told him the news at noon and he replied with okay, he must have gone to resign without even hesitating. He had been busy all afternoon and only now had the time to call her first and tell her about it. Seeing Liao Hao Miao so happy, Zhu Tao was also happy for him. She had originally thought he would be sad about leaving his job to be with her, but seeing him so happy now, Zhu Tao felt relieved. She smiled and said, Can you manage to pack everything by yourself? Maybe just leave it for now. You should rest first, and we can go back and pack together when we have time. It's fine. It's just packing a few things, and I'm not tired at all today. Don't worry. I'll rest for a bit when I get back, then I'll pack and buy a ticket. I'll see you tomorrow. Zhu Tao covered her mouth happily, giggling. Okay, then be safe. Eat a proper dinner tonight. Don't just make do with something, you hear me? I know. Oh, Zhou Heng is calling me. Babe, I'll hang up for now. I'll tell Zhou Heng about this and ask if he's free for dinner tomorrow. Liao Hao Miao bought a train ticket for the next afternoon. He packed up both their belongings at home, planning to mail them once they found a place to live in Huzhou. Carrying his luggage alone, he arrived at the high-speed rail station and boarded the train to Huzhou in the afternoon. He also messaged Zhu Tao to let her know he had set off. However, Zhu Tao seemed very busy today. Liao Hao Miao looked at their chat history. They had only exchanged a good morning before she went to work, followed by a message at noon saying she was eating. After a few sentences, there was no further news. But Liao Hao Miao could understand. It was Zhu Tao's first day at work, so it was normal that she had no time to check her phone. Or perhaps the job didn't allow for phone use. By the time Liao Hao Miao arrived in Huzhou, it was already past 5 in the afternoon. He walked out of the high-speed rail station and saw a message from Zhu Tao, a very short one. I get off work in an hour and a half. Okay, Liao Hao Miao replied, then put his phone away. He had the hotel location Zhu Tao sent him. He planned to go to the hotel first and wait for her to get off work. Hey, buddy, need a ride? Where to? Liao Hao Miao heard a shout and thought it was a taxi driver. So, head down, he waved his hand dismissively and continued walking forward. After a few steps, he realized the voice sounded a bit familiar. When Liao Hao Miao looked up towards the source of the voice, he couldn't help but freeze for a moment. He saw that the person standing there was none other than his good friend, Zhou Hong. Holy crap. What are you doing here? Aren't you super busy with work? Liao Haomiao's face instantly broke into a smile. He dragged his luggage and walked over quickly, unable to hold back a curse. He was just so happy to see his long-unseen friend, especially since they had talked on the phone just last night, and Zhou Hong had said he was very busy recently. He never expected him to come to Huzhou to pick him up today. I've been really busy these past few days, but I need a rest too. If I keep working without a break, my wife will be unhappy. Zhou Hong patted Liao Haomiao's shoulder and said with a smile, "Wow, showing off your love life the moment we meet. That's you. Same as always. Wife is treasure. Wife is the best. You can't live without your wife." "Haha, you really know me." Zhou Hong laughed heartily, not denying Liao Haomiao's words. Subsequently, Liao Haomiao put his luggage in Zhou Heng's car and sat in the passenger seat. After getting in and fastening his seatbelt, he glanced at the car's interior and couldn't help but exclaim, "Whoa, this car is nice. How much did it cost?" A few $100,000, I guess." Zhou Hong answered vaguely, telling Liao Haomiao the car cost around a few $100,000 yuan. He himself didn't have high requirements for a car. As long as it could drive, it was fine. It didn't need to be too expensive. But his status was different now. Driving a car that was too shabby wouldn't look good. When out and about, having a car that matched his status made things easier. "TSK, Sai, I'm so jealous of you. So successful now, life must be great, right? Not so many worries." Liao Haomiao leaned back on the comfortable seat and couldn't help but sigh, looking rather melancholic. Zhou Heng glanced at Liao Haomiao and said lightly, "I have worries too, but definitely not as tough as yours." He knew how hard life was for Liao Haomiao and his girlfriend. Although he also had a pile of worries, he never had to worry about money. On that point alone, he was definitely happier than Liao Haomiao. "I wonder if I'll be able to find a job here. You work at Junhong, right? I definitely can't get in. I'll see which company wants me in a few days." Liao Haomiao looked out the car window. Although he was sitting in a nice car now, he was living a completely different life from Zhou Hong. Back in school, he might have been the revered #1 student. Back then, he was better than Zhou Hong because in school, grades could rank people. But after graduation, he realized he was not as good as Zhou Hong in any aspect. He had finally accepted the reality that he was just an ordinary person. So what if he was #1? Anyone could be #1. Yin Gran could, Tang Ji could. Now, in that high school, a new #1 student was born with every exam. But how many people were there like Zhou Hong? Liao Haomiao sat up and looked at Zhou Hong, who was driving, and cautiously began, buddy, what's up?" Zhou Hong glanced at him, not knowing what he was about to say. Liao Haomiao hesitated for a moment before slowly speaking, somewhat unconfidently. "Buddy, let me say this first, it's not that. I see you're rich now and have become a snob. It's just, things have been really tough lately. When we talked on the phone last night, I briefly mentioned my recent situation. I quit my job to come to Huzhou to be with Zhu Tao, but we don't have much money to live on. We also need to rent a place. It'll cost a lot, and I don't know if I can find a job." Liao Haomiao said a lot, but couldn't get to the point. He seemed to be afraid of something, stealing glances at Zhou Heng's face from time to see if his expression changed. Hearing this, Zhou Heng seemed to understand what Liao Haomiao wanted to say, but he still didn't speak, waiting for Liao Haomiao to say it himself. "It's just, when the time comes, could you lend me a little money? Just enough for rent is fine. Then, when I find a job and get paid, I'll pay you back. If I can't pay it all back at once, I'll pay it back slowly, but it definitely won't take too long. Is that okay?" Zhou Heng knew it. Liao Haomiao being so cautious with him had to be about borrowing money. For him, this was already a difficult thing to bring up. The fact that he could say these words proved that he was indeed having a very hard time. So hard that he couldn't solve it himself and could only turn to him for help. But for Zhou Hong, this was no big deal. He could easily help Liao Haomiao. "Understand. It's a small thing, don't worry. As long as you're in Huzhou or Dongzhou, if you have any difficulties, I can find a way to help you. So you don't have to worry. Don't think too much about borrowing money. Tomorrow, I'll take you somewhere and solve your other problem at the same time." Zhou Heng first took Liao Haomiao to Zhu Tao's hotel. They found her room, and with the password she had sent, it was easy to get in. After dropping off the luggage, Liao Haomiao left with Zhou Heng, preparing to go to Tianheng to pick up the girls from work. The car drove to the entrance of Tianheng, and the two waited for the others to get off work. After a while, they saw Yin Gran and the others walking out. Yin Gran was holding the baby, followed by Yuling Xue and Zhu Tao. Zhu Tao looked listless, walking without much energy, and even needed Yuling Xue's support. Zhou Heng and Liao Haomiao saw them, and quickly got out of the car to greet them. When Yin Gran saw Zhou Heng, she immediately smiled and said to the baby in her arms, "Son, Look who's here. Daddy's here. Daddy came to see you. Wifey. Son. I'm here. Zhou Heng trotted over and hugged Dean Mingran. The baby, in their arms, immediately reached out his little hand to touch Zhou Heng's face upon seeing him. Son, did you miss Daddy? Let Daddy hold you. Zhou Heng took the baby into his arms, his face full of joy that covered up the fatigue he had accumulated over the past few days. At this moment, he seemed not tired at all, instantly recharged. Liao Haomiao also walked toward Zhu Tao. He was a bit surprised to see her state, not knowing what was wrong with her. Yuling Xue walked up to Liao Haomiao and directly pushed the supported Zhu Tao towards him. Here, she's all yours. Whoa! Liao Haomiao was startled and quickly steadied Zhu Tao, holding her in his arms and asking with concern, Babe, what's wrong with you? Ugh! Zhu Tao looked up, saw Liao Haomiao, and leaned into his arms, whispering, Tired. It's my first day at work. I'm so tired. I don't know anything. I have to learn from others. There's so much to do. It's mentally draining, and I was on my feet all day. I'm so tired now. Zhu Tao said listlessly. This was her first job. She had gone to work full of confidence today, realizing she had a job and had entered society. She was very happy, but just 2 hours into her shift, her fantasy was shattered. Work was just too tiring. Others were training her, and because she was unfamiliar with everything, she had to ask about and learn everything, which made her flustered and extremely tired. That tired? Then why don't you? Before Liao Haomiao could finish, Zhu Tao interrupted him. She stood up straight, covered his mouth with her hand, and looked at him with a determined gaze, saying, Don't worry, I'm just not used to it yet. It's my first job after all. The person training me said that in 2 months, I'll be completely familiar with it. Liao Haomiao was a bit surprised, his eyes wide as he looked at Zhu Tao and asked, 2 months? So long? What kind of work is it? Is it very difficult? Yeah, it's quite difficult, but I'm responsible for the simpler parts. But the salary is quite high. Zhu Tao looked at Liao Haomiao with a slight smile, raising her eyebrows, looking very proud. When she heard about her salary, she was also shocked. It was equivalent to Liao Haomiao's previous 3-month salary. So no matter how tiring this job was, she didn't want to give up. She had to persevere and cherish this job. Okay. Then you go for it. I'll work hard too. Let's both work hard together. Seeing Zhu Tao like this, Liao Haomiao was also suddenly filled with confidence. He had been worried about Zhu Tao's problems, and now that her problem was solved, he just needed to solve his own. Their lives could get back on track and move in a positive direction. They only needed to work hard together for a year, and they wouldn't have to live a hard life anymore. What they wanted would eventually be theirs. What they needed most now was stability. All right, let's go eat. I'm starving. Yuling Xue, seeing them all talking while she stood there alone, feeling lonely, urged them on. Zhou Heng looked at her and asked, Where's Bai Tsong? Call him to join us. Yuling Xue shook her head and said helplessly, Forget it. He's been quite busy lately. His dad has him busy with something. He barely talks to me. We'll wait until he's free. Okay. In the evening, the group found a restaurant. The long-unseen friends had a great time together. Zhou Heng also had a few more drinks with Liao Haomiao. Liao Haomiao seemed to be under a lot of pressure, drinking quickly and more than Zhou Heng. After a while, his face turned red, and he became more talkative. Buddy, I really never thought back then that life would turn out like this. I used to think with my grades, I'd be at my peak as soon as I entered society. I didn't expect that in society. I'm just this. Liao Haomiao stuck up his thumb, then flipped it and pointed it down hard, while also taking a big gulp of liquor. He seemed to be recalling the grievances he suffered at his previous company, which made the liquor in his mouth feel not so harsh. Zhu Tao looked at Liao Haomiao with only heartache in her eyes. She also secretly vowed to work hard and help her man share the pressure. Zhou Heng also had a serious expression. He reached out and patted Liao Haomiao's shoulder, saying, All right, buddy, you come with me tomorrow. I have a use for that brain of yours, don't worry. Liao Haomiao looked at Zhou Heng, nodded, and said, Okay, buddy, your word is enough for me. I'm relieved. I'll do whatever you say, really anything. Liao Haomiao had also had a bit too much to drink, and his speech was a bit slurred. He subconsciously reached into his pocket and pulled out a cigarette. As soon as he put it in his mouth, he remembered this wasn't his home, there were other people around, and besides, there was a child. I'm going to the restroom. Liao Haomiao, with the cigarette in his mouth, stood up to go to the bathroom for a smoke. Zhou Heng and the others looked at him in surprise and asked, You've started smoking now? Just 1 or 2 occasionally, not much. Liao Haomiao waved his hand and then walked out of the private room, planning to have a smoke before coming back. Just as he walked out, a man happened to be walking towards him. dressed in a suit and tie and holding a pile of documents. He seemed to be in a hurry. The man stopped Liao Haomiao, bowed slightly, and said in a low voice, "Hello, may I ask if President Zhou is inside? I have a document here that needs President Zhou's signature." Liao Haomiao had just lit his cigarette and was holding it in his mouth. He looked at the man in front of him, blinked, and murmured, "President Zhou." Liao Haomiao's brain shut down for a moment. When he came to his senses, he started to think about who this President Zhou was. But it took less than a second to come to a conclusion. Who else could it be? Besides Zhou Heng, who else could be President Zhou? The President Zhou you're talking about, is it Zhou Heng? Just in case the other party was looking for the wrong person, Liao Haomiao asked cautiously. The man nodded directly and said, "Yes." "Then you say he's President Zhou?" "He's the president of where?" Liao Haomiao now felt his head buzzing, almost numb. His voice trembled as he spoke. "Jiuanheng. President Zhou is the vice president of Jiuanheng." "What? Aren't you President Zhou's friend? Vice president of Jiuanheng?" The newly lit cigarette instantly fell from Liao Haomiao's lips to the ground. He took 2 steps back, his face filled with shock and disbelief. He was completely stunned now, his mind unable to think straight. He had always treated Zhou Heng as his best friend, knowing his family was well off and that he had a good job now, wasn't short of money, and had a bright future. But he never imagined that Zhou Heng was actually the vice president of Jiuanheng. What did that even mean? They were the same age, yet he had been left far, far behind, so far that he could never catch up. But why didn't he tell him about this? Why did he hide it? At this age, to have reached this position, wasn't that something to be proud of? Not telling. Was it because he was afraid of putting pressure on him? Indeed, right now, he was full of pressure, feeling like he was about to explode from it. Ahem. President Zhou is inside. I'll take you in. Liao Haomiao turned around, then reached out and opened the door to the private room. As the door opened, the people inside stopped talking and looked towards the entrance. "Hey, President Zhou, sorry to bother you. Secretary Tang can't sign this one. It needs your personal signature. It's quite urgent. I really had no choice, so I asked Secretary Tang for your location and came to find you." The man quickly bypassed Liao Haomiao, came to Zhou Heng's side, bent down, and spoke in a low voice, handing the document to Zhou Heng. Everyone else fell silent, quietly watching the scene. Zhu Tao's mouth was wide open. Even if she didn't understand what was going on, she could tell that Zhou Heng's identity seemed to be not so simple. Zhou Heng said nothing, took the document, and skillfully signed it in front of everyone. After signing, he handed it back to the man. "Okay, thank you, President Zhou." After taking the document, the man bowed slightly to Zhou Heng, then looked at the others, also bowed slightly with an apologetic smile, and quickly left the private room. After the man left, the room was still silent. Liao Haomiao slowly walked back and sat down next to Zhou Heng, his body somewhat stiff. He remembered his drunken behavior just now, putting his arm around Zhou Heng's shoulder, calling him buddy. Now his face was burning. Zhou Heng probably didn't even consider him a friend anymore. How could he be worthy? What kind of social class was he in, and what was he? At this moment, a saying came to Liao Haomiao's mind. When your good friend one day truly climbs to a height you can never reach in your lifetime, you should know that in this life, he may only remember your old friendship once. In this life, you only have one chance to ask him for help. As long as it's not excessive, he most likely won't refuse. But from then on, you and he will have no relationship to speak of, maybe not even contact each other anymore. This opportunity could even be used to save a life. After a moment, Liao Haomiao laughed awkwardly. He picked up the bottle of liquor, first poured a glass for Zhou Heng, then filled his own to the brim, so full it was overflowing. Liao Haomiao raised his glass to his forehead, looked at Zhou Heng, and said, Brother, let me toast you. I'll drink it all. You drink as you please." "Hey." Before Zhou Heng could say anything, Liao Haomiao downed the entire glass of white liquor in one go. Zhu Tao watched from the side, looking as if she wanted to speak, but couldn't. She reached out to stop Liao Haomiao, but then put her hand down, a gesture that showed her indecision. Zhou Heng didn't say anything either. After watching Liao Haomiao finish the entire glass of liquor, he also picked up his glass and drank it all, looking quite relaxed. Then, Zhou Heng patted Liao Haomiao's shoulder and whispered, "Don't overthink it." Okay." Liao Haomiao didn't even try to understand what Zhou Heng's words meant, just quietly agreed. He was already very drunk, the alcohol quickly taking effect, his whole brain spinning. The glass of liquor he had just downed was irritating his stomach, making him feel the urge to vomit. He was just subconsciously responding to Zhou Heng's words, but not thinking at all. Zhou Heng and Min Gran exchanged a look, and both couldn't help but show a faint, wry smile. There was nothing they could do about it. After about another half an hour, the dinner was mostly over. In the end, only Min Gran and Ling Xue were chatting. Zhou Heng was on the phone talking business, and Zhu Tao was taking care of Liao Haomiao, who was already passed out on the table. Drink some more water. Look at you. I understand you're happy to see Zhou Heng and the others, but why did you have to drink so much? Zhu Tao poured water for Liao Haomiao while murmuring softly in his ear. After a while, Zhou Heng finished his call, walked back, glanced at Liao Haomiao on the table, and said to Zhu Tao, "Let's go then. It's getting late. We'll send you back first so he can get some rest. I'll pick him up tomorrow." "Ah, okay." The group left together. Zhou Heng called for a designated driver, first sending Zhu Tao and Liao Haomiao back, then coming back to pick up the others. It took a great deal of effort for Zhu Tao to get Liao Haomiao back to the hotel room and onto the bed. "Here, lift your arm." Then, Zhu Tao helped Liao Haomiao take off his jacket, which reeked of alcohol. She was preparing to wash it for him. Liao Haomiao lay on the bed, and after a short while, his eyes opened. He was much more sober. He stared at the ceiling, his head still very groggy. He heard the sound of water in the bathroom stop, and then Zhu Tao came out with his clothes and hung them under the air conditioner. "Ah, babe, you're awake. How do you feel? Thirsty? Want some water?" Okay, wait a moment." Zhu Tao brought a bottle of mineral water, opened it, and handed it to Liao Haomiao. "Sit up and drink, don't choke." Liao Haomiao sat up and took a sip of water. As the cool water went down his throat, he sobered up a lot, and his vision became clearer. He put the water aside, then picked up the cigarettes on the table, looked up at Zhu Tao tentatively, and Zhu Tao nodded, signaling her consent. Only then did Liao Haomiao take one out, light it, and take a drag. "Babe, do you think I'm pretty useless?" Zhu Tao was taken aback for a moment, then let out a soft laugh, patting him and saying, "What nonsense are you talking about? If you're useless, wouldn't that make me a total waste? In my eyes, you're the best. Stop being anxious, okay? Be good." "Do you ever envy Min Gran? She's so happy now, not having to live a hard life. This is all because Zhou Heng is amazing. And Liao Haomiao wanted to say that he had no abilities at all, that this was as far as he would go in life, and he definitely couldn't compare to Zhou Heng. If Zhu Tao hadn't chosen him, would she have had better options? Would someone much better than him have appeared in her life, allowing her to live a good life instead of following him, worrying about daily necessities, rent, and utilities, and even losing sleep over work? Liao Haomiao felt he was so inadequate right now, completely incapable of solving problems. He kept saying he would never leave Zhu Tao, but at the same time, he couldn't give her a good life. Wasn't he just torturing her? Just as Liao Haomiao's mind was wandering, a hand suddenly patted his face, not too hard, not too soft, just enough to wake him from his reverie. He looked up, bewildered, at Zhu Tao in front of him. Zhu Tao's expression was serious, her eyes fixed on Liao Haomiao. After staring for a while, she slowly spoke. "I told you, don't think so much. Why don't you listen?" "But my happiness, how can you define it so casually? My happiness isn't about having endless money. It's not about a life without worries. It's about having you by my side. So don't compare yourself to others. It's completely meaningless." Liao Haomiao's words were all choked back, unable to say anything. Only Zhu Tao's words swirled in his mind. "Zhou Heng is your friend. He succeeded and didn't forget you. He wants to help you. He's even coming to pick you up tomorrow morning. You should be happy. How did this become a source of anxiety for you? If you ask me, you're just thinking too much." Liao Haomiao lowered his head, looking at the long ash on his cigarette, and said, "I'm just afraid that you will feel unhappy being with me, that you'll regret being with me. So, I want to become better, more outstanding. Then you're thinking even more nonsense. You especially don't need to worry about that. After so many years, don't you know me?" Zhu Tao moved closer to Liao Haomiao, reached out, and gently pinched his cheek, smiling slightly. Liao Haomiao was stunned for a few seconds, then also smiled. The moment he smiled, the cigarette ash fell. Whoosh whoosh. Liao Haomiao quickly blew the ash that fell on the bed and patted it twice. "See, I told you not to smoke in bed. Okay, put it out now." Liao Haomiao extinguished the cigarette, looked at Zhu Tao, thought for a moment, and asked, "Is there anything you want?" "Want? What do you mean? What do you want in the future?" "I should have a goal, For so long, Liao Haomiao didn't know what Zhu Tao wanted. A car, a house, designer bags, makeup, etc. She never mentioned them, never asked for them. Every time Liao Haomiao bought a gift for Zhu Tao, he had to rack his brains because he had no idea what she wanted. What I want? Zhu Tao began to think seriously. She had never really considered this question before. She always used cost-effective things and never pursued luxury items or used particularly expensive things. Now that Liao Haomiao asked, she was a bit stumped. Hey! Suddenly, Zhu Tao's eyes lit up. She moved closer to Liao Haomiao, grabbed his hands, and looked at him with an expectant face. What is it? What do you want? Zhu Tao nodded and said loudly, I want a child. Huh? At these words, Liao Haomiao was instantly stunned, his eyes wide, looking completely shocked. He had thought Zhu Tao would want some kind of gift. How? Did it turn out to be a child? Hadn't they decided before not to have children? Why the sudden change of heart? Little kids are so fun. You have no idea. Ranran's baby is so cute. So well-behaved, so fun. I want one too. This. Liao Haomiao gave an awkward smile. So it was seeing Yimingran's child that gave her this idea. He had also seen the child at the dinner table today. He was indeed quite fun, very cute. When he was hungry, he just quietly drank from his bottle, not making a fuss or crying throughout the whole meal. Are you really sure? It's not just on a whim. Really? Well, okay then. Should we tell our parents? I already told my mom we weren't having kids. She tried to persuade me for over a month. Now that I've suddenly changed my mind, I should probably tell her. Okay. Liao Haomiao glanced at the time. It was still early, his mother should still be awake. So he took out his phone, preparing to make a call to chat and mention this. After the call connected, Liao Haomiao heard his mother's voice. Hello? Son, what's up, calling so late? Are you out of money again? Hey mom, what are you doing? Playing on my phone in bed. Your dad just got back. Is something wrong? Oh no, mom. I just want to tell you I quit my old job and came to Huzhou with Zhu Tao. Zhu Tao has already found a job at Tianeng. I'm going to look for a job tomorrow, too. A good friend of mine will arrange it for me. After Liao Haomiao finished speaking, there was a long silence on the other end. After a while, she said, I see. You're both grown up now. You have your own ideas. Just be safe. Do you need to rent a place again? Do you still have money? A little. Mom, I have one more thing to tell you. It's about. Before, I said I didn't want kids. Well, I've kind of changed my mind now. I feel like having kids would be nice. What do you think? Really? Great. You finally come around. Oh, this is wonderful news. Old Liao, come here quick. Guess what our son said? The suddenly amplified voice of Liao Haomiao's mother on the phone made him involuntarily hold the phone further away, afraid of hurting his ears. After a while, Liao Haomiao's father came over, took the phone, and said, Son, if you want to have a child, go ahead, don't have any burdens. It's okay. We have the means to raise one. The money your dad and I have been saving all these years to get you a wife and raise your kids can finally be put to use. Okay. I know. After chatting for a few more sentences, Liao Haomiao put down his phone. He hadn't expected his family to want a grandchild so badly. The moment they heard he was planning to have a child, they became so emotional. After he hung up, Liao Haomiao's father even transferred him a sum of money. With this money, he wouldn't have to worry about rent for the time being. After hanging up, Liao Haomiao looked at Zhu Tao with an embarrassed smile. His parents' voices had been quite loud, so Zhu Tao must have heard everything. Zhu Tao was also covering her mouth and chuckling, and seeing Liao Haomiao's current expression made her laugh even more happily. All right, go wash up and get ready for bed. You have to get up early tomorrow. Okay. Liao Haomiao was sober now, much clearer-headed. Although he couldn't remember the details of what happened at the dinner table or what he had said, he clearly remembered one thing. Zhou Heng was the vice president of Juanheng. Since Zhou Heng still treated him as a brother and a friend, he couldn't waste this status. He had to see Zhou Heng's help and not let him down. Thinking about it carefully, he still had an advantage. Even though he wasn't doing very well himself, compared to other people his age, he still had a good buddy. If nothing went wrong, wasn't Zhou Heng his advantage? The next morning, Liao Haomiao set a very early alarm and got up to get ready. He didn't know when Zhou Heng would come, and he didn't dare to call and ask, which would make it seem like he was rushing him. So he could only get up early, get ready, and wait for Zhou Heng. I'm heading to work now. Good luck today. Okay, you too. Around 7:30, Zhu Tao left for work. Liao Haomiao was still in the hotel, sitting on a chair looking something up on his phone. Juanheng, vice president. With nothing else to do, he searched online, but all he found were news articles about the former vice president of Juanheng, Yu Yinghai, being sentenced to death. There was no record of the current vice president online. Even so, Liao Haomiao wouldn't doubt Zhou Heng's identity. He guessed that Zhou Heng had just taken office recently, so it was normal that he couldn't be found online. Curiosity led him to search for Zhou Heng's name, and the results stunned him. Juanheng and Tianheng to hold the largest annual meeting in history, to be held in half a month with overall coordinator. Zhou Heng. V's his tea. Just then a call came in, startling Liao Haomiao so much he almost dropped his phone. The caller was Zhou Heng. Hello. Hello. Buddy. Are you up? I'm up. All ready and waiting for you. Good, I'm almost there. Come downstairs. Okay. After hanging up, Liao Haomiao grabbed his things, left the hotel, and went to the entrance. About 2 minutes later, Zhou Heng's car pulled up in front of him. Lowering the window, Zhou Heng looked at Liao Haomiao and said, "Get in." Liao Haomiao quickly opened the car door, got in, and fastened his seatbelt, looking enthusiastic. Although he didn't know where Zhou Heng was taking him, he had a feeling that his destiny was about to change starting today. Have you had breakfast? After driving for a while, Zhou Heng spoke up, asking. No. He had gotten up so early and didn't know when Zhou Heng would arrive, so he hadn't eaten. Zhu Tao could eat at the company. Then let's go get something to eat first. Oh, okay. Zhou Heng drove to a street filled with small stalls and breakfast shops. He parked the car in front of one of the breakfast shops. Liao Haomiao glanced at it. It looked like a very ordinary breakfast shop. The environment wasn't even that good, with only 4 small, shabby wooden tables inside. The egg pancakes here are delicious. Zhou Heng pointed at the breakfast shop, smiled slightly, and got out of the car. Liao Haomiao was stunned for a moment, muttering, "Egg pancakes." Then he also got out of the car and walked into the shop. Zhou Heng seemed to come here often. He walked in, sat down, and called out to the person inside, "Boss, 2 egg pancakes, 2 bowls of porridge, a side of pickles, and a steamer of buns." Coming right up. Liao Haomiao walked over and hesitantly sat down in front of Zhou Heng. Seeing his expression, Zhou Heng was a bit surprised and asked, "What's wrong? You don't like it? Then what do you want to eat?" "Oh no, it's nothing. Is this what you usually eat for breakfast?" Liao Haomiao asked the question that was on his mind. He felt that Zhou Heng was still as low-key as ever. In school, no one could figure him out, and now he was still hard to read. "Yeah, what else would I eat?" Zhou Heng shrugged, not understanding why Liao Haomiao would ask such a question. What else would he eat besides food? "I thought you'd eat something more luxurious in the morning. You're so rich now, you should be enjoying life." Liao Haomiao's words made Zhou Heng shake his head helplessly. He waved his hand and said, "I'm not picky about food. As long as it fills me up, it's fine. Besides, is it worth wasting time on such small things?" I get it." Liao Haomiao nodded, looking as if he had a sudden realization. He could indeed see Zhou Heng's unpretentious nature, a quality he had always possessed. The two finished their breakfast at the shop. Liao Haomiao paid in advance, and then they left together. Zhou Heng drove Liao Haomiao to a place, a drive that took about an hour. "Where is this?" Liao Haomiao looked out the window and asked with confusion. "This is a location between Huzhou and Dongzhou." Zhou Heng continued driving. Liao Haomiao felt something was not right. The scene before him was astonishing. On the empty land, a massive construction project seemed to be underway. It looked like they were building a large building. Zhou Heng drove the car closer and closer, right to the edge of the huge vacant lot, and parked it in a safe place. Before Liao Haomiao had a chance to ask anything, Zhou Heng took out 2 safety helmets from the back, one red and one white. He put the red one on his own head, then handed the white one to Liao Haomiao. "Let's go, get out. I'll take you to see your job." "Job?" Liao Haomiao was stunned for a few seconds, then quickly put on the white safety helmet and got out of the car with Zhou Heng. As they walked into the vast construction site, a group of workers who were resting, smoking, and chatting immediately stood up upon seeing Zhou Heng approach, extinguished their cigarettes, picked up their shovels, and turned to leave. Liao Haomiao also understood the hierarchy of the safety helmets. The dark red one on Zhou Heng's head represented his leadership status, the highest on site. The white one on his head signified the role of a supervisor, a project manager, a minor leader. He had just arrived and was completely clueless, only able to follow behind Zhou Heng. He looked around. The scale of the construction was exaggerated, as if they were building a residential complex. If he wasn't mistaken, they were building a company here. A moment later, Liao Haomiao saw a name on a sign. Weiyan Technology Co., Ltd. Zhou Heng stood there, looking at the building under construction, and said, "This place is a joint project between Juanheng and Tianheng." Juanheng and Tianheng. Weiyan? Zhou Weiyan? Oh, I get it now. After a brief moment of thought, Liao Haomiao understood what was going on. Zhou Heng and Yi Mingran's son was named Zhou Weiyan. Zhou Heng was a leader at Juanheng, and Yi Mingran was a leader at Tianheng. This weigh-in was what they had created together. The connection was crystal clear. Zhou Heng smiled slightly, looked at Liao Haomiao, and asked, "Understood? Then do you know what I brought you here for? To help you manage it?" "Correct." After speaking, Zhou Heng beckoned to a man not far away. The man was also wearing a white safety helmet. Upon seeing Zhou Heng, he immediately trotted over. "President Zhou." The man came up to Zhou Heng and greeted him, then turned to look at Liao Haomiao. He was taken aback when he saw the white safety helmet on his head. "Brother Wang, this is Manager Liao. Starting today, he is the person in charge here. His words are my words." At these words, both the man and Liao Haomiao were simultaneously shocked, their mouths agape as they stared at Zhou Heng. After a few seconds of stunned silence, Liao Haomiao finally reacted and quickly grabbed Zhou Heng's arm. Buddy, come here for a second." "Huh? What's wrong?" Liao Haomiao pulled Zhou Heng aside and whispered, "Buddy, what? What are you doing? Buddy, what? What are you doing? What's the matter? Didn't I say I could arrange things for you? I can't help you with Juanheng. It's a strict rule not to use connections there. Except for me. But outside of Juanheng, I have full authority. This should be the best job I can find for you outside of Juanheng. You're not looking down on it, are you?" "No. What do you mean looking down on it? I mean, are you trusting me too much? Giving me such a high position? Making me responsible for such a big project? Even though I'm your buddy, you're thinking too highly of me." Liao Haomiao was in a state of being overwhelmed by the favor. He really hadn't expected Zhou Heng to trust him so much, to give him such a huge task. This responsibility wasn't just about building a building. It was a huge responsibility. If he didn't handle it well, he would feel like a criminal, like he should be in jail. "Then you're gonna bail on me?" Zhou Heng shot back, leaving Liao Haomiao completely stumped, just standing there frozen for a while. "No, I won't," Liao Haomiao answered Zhou Heng's question. He had already sworn that no matter what task Zhou Heng gave him, he would do his best to complete it. Even if it was cleaning toilets, he would clean them the best. So if Zhou Heng really entrusted this important task to him, he would definitely not let Zhou Heng down. He would do everything to the best of his ability. "Then that settles it. I may not know others, but don't I know you? Your character, your ability, your integrity, I know them all very well. I feel at ease in trusting this to you. After all, this is our own family's business, so it's very reasonable to entrust it to our own family." Our own family. Liao Haomiao was touched by Zhou Heng's words. He never thought that Zhou Heng would consider him family. He trusted him so much. What reason did he have to refuse? He knew that this was a job that ordinary people could never get. He had latched onto Zhou Heng's coattails, and Zhou Heng had opened a back door for him. He couldn't be ungrateful and act spoiled after getting such an advantage, right? Besides, Zhu Tao's job at Tianheng is also related to Weiyan. She's working in the team responsible for designing systems for Weiyan. In that sense, you two are kind of working in the same unit. "Okay, I understand. I will do my best." Liao Haomiao took a deep breath, then nodded with a serious and firm expression, accepting the offer. Zhou Heng smiled with satisfaction, patted his arm, and said, "Good. I'm confident in you. Come on, I'll take you to understand your job content." "Okay, bro." President Zhou. Since he had officially started, he certainly couldn't call Zhou Heng buddy at the workplace. Privately, it was fine, but work was work. For the rest of the day, Zhou Heng was explaining the work content to Liao Haomiao. Liao Haomiao was very attentive, not daring to be careless, remembering everything clearly, even down to the punctuation Zhou Heng used. Afterwards, Zhou Heng planned to leave. He had many other things to deal with. He went directly back to Dongzhu, back to Juanheng. He was supposed to be at work today, but dealing with Liao Haomiao's matter had delayed him for a day, so he was in a hurry. He could already imagine Tang Ji's expression when he saw her in a bit. An expression of extreme complaint. When he arrived at his office door and pushed it open, he saw Tang Ji sitting at his desk, helping him handle work. Hearing the door open, Tang Ji looked up and saw the embarrassed Zhou Heng walk in. "You decided to come back, huh? The great and busy President Zhou?" Tang Ji stood up, her stiff body almost preventing her from straightening her back. You don't understand. I went to handle matters on the way inside." "How is it? Was it very busy today?" Zhou Heng walked over and saw that the papers on the desk were piled up like a small mountain. Tang Ji picked up the documents in front of her, slapped them on Zhou Heng's chest, and said, "It's going to be even busier starting tomorrow. The annual meeting preparations are entering the final stage. Are you ready?" Tang Ji looked up at Zhou Heng, her brow slightly furrowed, her eyes seeming to convey some kind of hidden meaning. Zhou Heng took a deep breath, then slowly exhaled, nodded, and said, "Pretty much. I'm ready." Old Zhang. Old Zhang. Zhou Heng walked while calling out Old Zhang's name, holding a stack of documents. This was the backstage office of a large indoor stadium, and this venue was where Juanheng and Tianheng had booked for their annual meeting, a place that could accommodate nearly 10,000 people. Such a grand scale made people think it wasn't a company's annual meeting, but a celebrity's concert. At this time, the venue had been beautifully decorated, like walking into a fairyland. It could even be a tourist attraction. Booking such a large indoor stadium and decorating it like this cost a considerable amount of money. But for Juanheng and Tianheng, it was nothing. Hey, President Zhou, I'm here. Not far away. Old Zhang, the manager of Juanheng's Human Resources Department, emerged from the crowd and hurried to Zhou Heng's side. Old Zhang, you've worked hard during this time. It must have been very tiring running around. Don't worry, you won't be shorted a single penny of your bonus. The more you work, the more you get. Zhou Heng handed the documents to Old Zhang and said with a smile. Old Zhang took the documents and said with a smile, "Thank you, President Zhou. It's my duty to do my best for the company." Good. The annual meeting is in 3 days, and your task will be successfully completed. You can relax properly then. I hope there are no slip-ups in the end. Don't worry, I will complete the task perfectly. There will be absolutely no mistakes. I trust you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made you the overall coordinator. The company will definitely not treat a capable employee like you unfairly. Isn't Director Liu being transferred after the new year? Then, the position of Human Resources Director will be vacant, right? I feel the only one capable of handling this position is you, Old Zhang. Zhou Heng gave Old Zhang a look, the corner of his mouth slightly raised in a faint smile. Old Zhang instantly understood, squinting his eyes and smiling. "Oh, President Zhou, you're too kind. How could I dare say I'm capable of being the director? I'm already this old, almost retired. I never thought I could climb any higher. But if I really become the director, I will definitely not disappoint you. I think." Old Zhang suddenly lowered his voice, leaned closer to Zhou Heng, and whispered in his ear, "I think you're more capable than Vice President Bai. Following you is definitely the right choice." Old Zhang, you're wrong about that." Zhou Heng gently patted Old Zhang's shoulder, gave him a look, and said, "Juanheng forbids forming cliques. Have you forgotten the fate of Yu Yinghai and his followers? I'm just a junior. How can I be compared with President Bai? I have great respect for him. I'll pretend I didn't hear what you said this time. Don't say things that are not conducive to unity next time. You hear me?" Yes. Look at my stupid mouth." Old Zhang patted his own mouth and continued, "No wonder you could be a vice president. This level of awareness is something people like us can't possess. I still have much to learn from you." Old Zhang took the opportunity to flatter Zhou Heng again. A man in his early 50s, slightly bowing to flatter a man in his 20s, looked quite comical. But in the workplace, rank trumps age. "All right, you get back to work. I'm leaving." "Okay, take care." After speaking with Old Zhang, Zhou Heng left to attend to other matters. These days, he was so busy he was about to lose his mind. He would forget one thing while doing another, as there were simply too many things to remember. But thankfully, there were only 3 days left, and it would all be over soon. After leaving the venue, Zhou Heng received a call from Tangji. "Hello, Tangji, did you buy it?" "Of course, I'm exhausted. If you need anything else, tell me as soon as possible, so we don't have to scramble at the last minute." I can't think of anything right now. Help me think of things. You know the whole schedule, don't you?" "All right, what's your schedule this afternoon? Do you need my help? If not, I'm going back to the company. There are still things to handle there." "No need. I'm taking Ran and the baby to have dinner with my parents this afternoon. We arranged it before." "Okay, say hi to my uncle and aunt for me." Zhou Heng hung up with Tang Ji and then drove away. His family had previously arranged to have dinner together, and today was the day. Zhou Heng had just contacted his parents and heard they were already at the restaurant, while Yin Mingran would be another hour or so. Zhou Heng arrived at the restaurant, found a pre-booked private room, knocked on the door, and walked in to see Lu Wei and Zhou Junyao already seated inside. They seemed to be discussing something. When they saw Zhou Heng come in, they just glanced up before continuing their chat. Zhou Heng didn't disturb them and sat down to the side, listening to what they were saying. After a while, they seemed to have concluded their discussion and ended the topic. Then, they both turned to look at Zhou Heng, which made him a bit surprised. "You really went all out this time. Your mother and I, in all our years, never thought of holding a joint annual meeting for the two companies. Young people just have the energy. If it were us, we would have collapsed from exhaustion long ago." Zhou Junyao and Lu Wei said together, their faces showing expressions of helplessness. Zhou Heng also looked slightly embarrassed, shrugged, and said, sorry. This might be the last time in my life I do something this extravagant. As long as you know what you're doing. You and Xiao Ran are both grown up now, capable of handling things well. It can be said that your father's and my efforts were not in vain. Lu Wei reached out and stroked Zhou Heng's head, her eyes filled with pride. Zhou Heng also knew that most of his current abilities and way of thinking came from the influence of his parents. At the same time, he had thought about how to educate his own son. He felt he should continue his parents' educational methods, which would at least ensure he wouldn't go astray. Zhou Heng reached out, played with the cup on the table, and watched his face reflected in it. He smiled faintly and murmured, "Many years ago, I never thought I would have a day like this. Fate is truly a wonderful thing." Zhou Junyao nodded and said, "From the moment you were born, perhaps your destiny was already set. For example, meeting Xiao Ran in high school and completely changing your life was, in fact, fated.